And we'll open our public hearing this morning on our zoning amendment. So, Brenda, if I can pass it over to you.
Sure. This public is being held to hear from anyone who may be affected by the proposed changes to the city's zoning bylaw. Bylaw number 4204/2014 proposes to amend the zoning bylaw by deleting the option of including secondary suites in duplexes, by amending the formula that calculates the maximum potential floor area of a suite to 40% of the above grade floor area, and by inserting a requirement for a dedicated independent parking space for a secondary suite. Now, as Council had requested increased public consultation regarding this bylaw amendment, a memo from City Planner Jody McLean is included in the public hearing agenda that provides a detailed list of the consultation efforts made throughout the last 2 weeks, including an open house held on March 11th from 1 till 4 p.m. The agenda also includes background information that was provided at the open house, as well as 8 items of correspondence that were received in response to the notices. And now I turn the public hearing over to the mayor.
Thank you. So, item 3, we have a report. We have a report from a memo from Jody McLean. Do we need a motion to bring that into the public hearing, or accept that?
Just to receive for information.
Just for receive? Moved by Councillor Wilbur, seconded Councillor McFadden. Discussion, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And item 4, we have a number of pieces of correspondence and delegations. Each one require a motion.
One motion.
One motion, please. Councillor Malkinson to receive, seconded. Councillor Wilbur, discussion. All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. So the purpose of the public hearing is really to engage the community and those people interested in having input or wanting to provide input into the proposed zoning amendments. And so at this time, I'd like to call for the first call for comments. So anybody that would like to address City Council, please, I encourage you to come forward. Please. So if I could just ask you if you could identify yourself for the purpose of our minutes.
My name is Kylie Bruff, and I am the president of a couple of companies in Dawson Creek, one being Harvest View Development Corp. and one being National Home Construction. And I've made a written submission to council about one of the aspects of the amendment to bylaw 4204. The only one that we are concerned about is the amending the formula to calculate the maximum potential floor area of a suite. I just wanted to bring it, and I'm sure council has read my written submission, but I just wanted to bring it to council's attention that this will be the only municipality in BC doing it the way that it's written. So I'm not sure if that was the intention or if that was an oversight or an error, but it doesn't lend to a very comfortable way of living, and it doesn't really. It would eliminate secondary suites in homes in Dawson Creek, which is maybe the intention, or maybe that's the wish of mayor and council. But I wanted to bring that to their attention because it's not written the way it is in the BC Building Code. It's not the intent of the BC Building Code or the way any other city in British Columbia is doing it. That was it.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Councillor Malkinson?
Thank you, Your Worship. I forget your name.
Kylie Bruff.
Okay. Thank you for your words there. I appreciate it. Just so that I can get a sound understanding, were you saying that you wanted more solid wording there, or that you felt that the 40% calculation for the total area of the structure was more appropriate than just the one floor?
Yeah, thank you for your question. The way it's written in the BC Building Code and the way it's written in the secondary suites, a guide for local government that the city has handed out and that is available online, is to take 40% of. There's 3 ways that they word it. One is the total floor area, one is the gross floor area, and I can't remember the third one off the top of my head. But the intention from talking to other municipalities in BC, and I've outlined them all, the two closest ones being Fort St. John and Prince George. And the way that the British Columbia Building Officials Association interprets that is to take the area of both floors and use 40% of that. So, you know, the lots in Dawson Creek are getting a little smaller every year, and so to get a proper size suite where in the city of Whistler, for instance, they dictate what kind of rooms you have to have in a secondary suite, because the city of Vancouver and Whistler were getting people building 200, 300 square foot suites, which was a big problem. They were getting lodgers and boarders, which they didn't want in their city. So they dictated that you have to have a kitchen and a bathroom and a living room and a bedroom. And the city of Vancouver amended their bylaw, so you had to have a minimum of 400 square feet, because they were getting a lot smaller than that, and they were getting lodgers and boarders. And so with the smaller lots, you would have to have a 2,000 square foot top floor to have an 800 square foot suite, which I would consider to be a minimum to have a livable suite. That's just not going to happen on the lot sizes that we have now. So we're building homes at 1,300 square feet. So the way that this bylaw is written, we'd be allowed to have about 450 square feet in the suite. It's not going to. It's a hotel room, is what it is, right? It's just not going to work. So that's how we see it.
Yeah. Thank you. Any further questions or comments for the Mr. Brock? Thank you for coming this morning. Any other comments or questions? Yes. Good morning.
Good morning.
I wonder if I could get you just to say your name for the minutes.
Jim Ferry with Western Canadian Properties Group. We just wanted to make a couple quick comments on the bylaw. One of the things that we've looked at in some of the neighborhoods that have been built is it seems a lot of residents are upset that they've bought a nice house and then they have duplexes going in beside them. It causes a parking problem. There's parking on the street. And I think one of the intents of this bylaw is to alleviate that problem. Our fear is this bylaw, the way it's written, will actually do nothing to solve that problem. I could still go into some of these developments and build a large duplex with 3 bedrooms up, 2 bedrooms down in the basement on each side, which would create 10 bedrooms. Often what that does is it gets rented to groups of people and you end up with a car per bedroom. So one of the things we feel is that this bylaw is doing nothing to address how parking's being handled on duplex lots. It's also not doing anything to address the fact that where duplexes are going. We feel that comprehensive development zones, like has been done in Harvest View, address that you can't have duplexes intermixed with single-family homes. In the Harvest View development, we've actually used a model where we have to have 1 parking stall per bedroom, or we don't build it. And that way we don't have people parking on the street. We've only done the duplexes on the street that allows alley access also, so we can have parking off the alley. We've also tried to create duplexes that don't look all the same in a row, where that seems to be happening a lot around Dawson Creek, where someone will come in and build the exact same duplex 5 in a row. So if you're the person who owns a single-family home, you've now got a street of duplexes beside you, and they haven't addressed parking. So we don't feel that this bylaw, the way it's written, is going to do anything to address those issues, and will actually create a culture of illegal suites. If I have a duplex right now with a suite and I allow a daughter or something to live in it for 6 months, that doesn't become a suite anymore under the new bylaw. The next person who buys that buys that duplex with a nice suite in the basement, it's going to be very tough for them to say, well, I'm not going to rent this. And then it becomes a problem of how is council going to police this, bylaw infractions, that type of thing. And suites help people as a mortgage helper. A small duplex with 2 bedrooms and a 1-bedroom suite, that only creates 3 parking stalls, where a large duplex with no suite can still create 5 per side. So we just feel that another look needs to be taken and really figure out how to resolve this problem, not just say, well, let's get rid of secondary suites and the problem will go away, because it really won't. And they've tried it in a lot of other municipalities and it hasn't helped. City of Fort St. John right now is fighting the whole illegal sweep problem since they've created this. And they're actually having a council meeting this week to deal with that same problem. So we just feel that there is a problem. We've seen it in neighborhoods around Dawson Creek. It needs to be addressed. But simply saying take away illegal sweeps won't address the problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any comments or questions for Mr. Ferry? Just on the issue, I will respond on the zoning, currently under our zoning, when you have more than 4 bedrooms, it becomes a boarding house, and that is addressed under our zoning for that, so it doesn't allow for it. And again, that's an enforcement issue then for the community and by law enforcement. So, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you for coming this morning. Do I have other comments or questions that people would like to raise? So for a third and final time, we'll call for any further questions or comments. So thank you all for coming this morning. We appreciate your interest and concerns about our community and providing us with the input into the proposed zoning bylaw. So with that, I'll call for a close to our public hearing. Councillor Malkinson, seconded. Councillor Wilbur, discussion. All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. So we'll move now into our regular meeting of council. I'm going to call the meeting to order. First item, number 2, under new councillor business. 2-1, Councillor McFadden.
Good morning, Your Worship. There's 2 items on there. One is about the proliferation of large vehicles hauling, semis hauling dangerous goods on Alaska Avenue, and I've had 2 or 3 business folks approach me expressing a concern about it, and I also have noticed that. And we had one accident recently by the traffic circle, so I'm thinking that Alaska Avenue and 8th Street are provincial highways that we need to contact the Highway Patrol and the Motor Vehicle Branch and put together some plan of enforcement or to see if we can mitigate this and get those vehicles back on the dangerous good route.
Thank you for that. Councillor Malkinson?
So, Your Worship, is Councillor McFadden hoping to make a motion that we explore this further with the ministry?
Yes, I am. Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship.
Okay.
I'd second that.
Councillor McFadden, Councillor Malkinson, so that we're going to approach Highways, Ministry of Transportation and Highways and the RCMP to increase the enforcement efforts on the 2 corridors, Alaska and 8th Street.
That's correct.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? You ready for the question? All in favor of? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And you had, also Northern Development Initiative Trust in the airport, Councillor McFadden?
Your Worship, recently the airport manager was at a meeting in Prince George with all of the airport managers from the province of BC, I understand. And at that meeting, they had a presentation from NDIT regarding the economic importance of an airport to a community. And I'm wondering if we could have staff contact NDIT and perhaps have them come out and make that same presentation to council. I think we have something planned in June, a 1-day seminar regarding economic development, and that might be a good opportunity to have NDIT come in and perhaps give us a presentation. We'll let staff decide how long it would be, perhaps. You need a motion for that?
We probably should in terms of moving it forward to administration for
So moved.
seconded. Councillor Wilbur, discussion? You ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you, Councillor McFadden. Anything further?
That's all. Thank you, Your Worship.
Item 2-3, we have Councillor Wilbur.
Good morning, thank
morning.
you. Happy St. Patrick's Day, and I'm happy to see everyone's wearing green. Might get pinched on the way out if you're not. I think that's the rule. Anyways, I would just want to talk about city cleanup a little bit. It's planned for May 10th, and the lovely ladies in Parks and Rec would be more than happy to sign up any team that wishes to get involved. And we've changed things up a little bit this year. We're going to be working with the schools to create a superhero video and run it as a contest. So we're hoping to have all the schools participate in that. The other thing, our new portable water fill station is here. It looks lovely, and I would really like to have it in our trade show booth at the trade show in April to roll that out to the community. We plan on using it at City Cleanup, and it runs so close to Water Week, and so I'd really like to promote that and have that water fill station there to show the community and let them know how they can sign up to use it at their events. So I don't know if I need a motion for that or if that's just something that we can do, but I am prepared to make a motion, so be.
Don't think we actually need a motion on that, Your Worship. We'll just take that direction.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you.
All right.
Your Worship?
Yes.
I have one item of new business. This Saturday is World Water Day, and we're doing a tour for any interested person leaving from the Seniors Hall at 9 in the morning, going to our reclaimed water facility, then out to Sunset Prairie to the Shell Water Hub, lunch provided at the Shell camp, and then return to Seniors Hall. There'll be information on the website about how to sign up. I just wanted to give everybody a heads up. And of course, any councillor who wishes to take the tour is welcome as well.
Is that the Shell or the Encana Water Hub?
The Shell, the Sunset Water Hub.
Where it connects to our facility? Good.
Yes.
Thank you.
Um,
Any other new business, Councillor? Councillor Malkinson?
Yeah, good morning, Your Worship. I just had a bit about the Watershed Society. At a recent meeting, they, I suppose, spoke about their priorities for the year, the Dawson Creek Watershed Society, and that included a expansion of the signage program along the creek that's been going on for, that was undertaken last year, possibly expanding it to Bear Hole Lake and to Moberly as well.
One Island.
Yes. Miss Councillor Schumann is correct. I was mistaken. Also, just a bit of note, or a topic of note when I reviewed the minutes of our recent meeting was the upcoming Phase 2 of the oil and gas industry health impacts report that's up and coming. Also, well, perhaps I can change topics from there, Your Worship. I think at the last meeting we did approve the strategic plan, which included our priorities and our strategic objectives. And I do remember asking at the last meeting, maybe for a bit of clarification on the origin of the strategic objectives, because while I do remember discussing at length the priorities that we had, I wasn't certain where the objectives came from and how exactly council's input factored into them. I suppose I'll ask as a preliminary question, what possible direction can come out of the objectives for staff? I'm not sure if it's guiding their actions this year or not, but does staff have any comment on that?
Through Your Worship, the objectives are your targets. The priorities are your specific actions for this year. So staff will be working on the specific deliverables for the year. It would be up to council to decide whether that moves you closer to your goals that you've set.
See, the origin, I think, of my confusion is the targets, I believed, were the vision and the guiding principles that we've adopted and we have on the wall right there. I just don't understand how it fits into the plan that we have right now, and I just don't understand the origin of it. So it's just a source of confusion for me, and I'm mentioning this for council's information, I suppose, at this point.
Thank you. Councillor Parslow?
Given the topic that's just been raised, and I've shared this with you, but I've heard from other councillors in discussions, the Mayor's task force on the fiscal gap, in one document that was circulated, it referred to 2 councillors, and the impression that I had and some others had is it was going to be council as a whole. Could you clarify that, or have you done any more thinking about that?
Yeah, no, it was clearly the adoption that council moved when we adopted the strategic priorities was, it was the council of all of council. So it was, I think the two councilors were part of the discussion in terms of how we get there, but the approval of what we approved under the priorities was all of council.
Yeah. Okay, great. Another matter, maybe just flagged for a future council meeting, but there's been, our chief financial officer produced a leaflet for the budget meeting and some questions. I've asked some questions based upon that, but since then some members of the community have asked questions, so I think it would be good for a future staff meeting, and it relates to the fact that the city has intends to borrow $8 million for the very necessary sewer line. So questions have been raised about the 16 point whatever $million surplus, and I know that some of that is targeted, but the questions that I can answer is the because I think that certain things have happened in this intervening year about the intentions for the sewer capital utility fund and the water utility fund. One has about $7.5 million in it, and the other has $2.5 million. And so I think perhaps we need to have a discussion as council as about the plans for those capital funds, and see if we're still on board with those intentions. So not intending any discussions today, but at a future council meeting.
Perfect, thank you. We'll note those, and we do have a follow-up budget public consultation meeting in April. So that's a great opportunity for the public to be able to engage that with us in terms of asking those questions and comments about understanding the funding sources for our capital projects and how that all flows. But we'll also make sure to note that to Shelley for our future discussions for council, because we do, I think, have another budget meeting with council in 2 weeks. So, thank you. Item 3 minutes of our regular meeting of council for adoption. Were there any errors or omissions? Councillor Malkinson, move. Seconded. Councillor Parslow, discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Business arising. I've got a verbal report now from Jim, our Chief Administrative Officer, in regards to our gaming.
Thank you, Your Worship. You may have noted in the media indications that the gaming center in Fort St. John is contemplating converting to a casino, meaning having live table gaming. The stated reason for that is that the Fort St. John gaming center is a very high performing gaming center in terms of net proceeds. Your gaming center is similarly a very high performer in terms of net proceeds. My question to you is, did you want BCLC invited in to explain the process of such a conversion, or is that not of interest to you?
So I think absolutely, as through conversations with Jim, as we learned about the proposed changes to the gaming center in Fort St. John, that it was a worthwhile topic for us to bring forward to council. It was one of those discussions that was raised at the time of chances starting here, I understand. And so I wanted to make sure we bring it back to council to see if there is an interest. Councillor Parslow?
Yes, I would imagine if such a expansion in offerings was established, it would net more revenue to the city. Is that correct? Because there'd be more profit?
I'll turn that over to Jim.
Yeah, through Your Worship, as you may recall, we met with the operating company, Great Canadian Gaming, when we were at UBCM last fall, and they were not so sure of that. If you'll recall, their concern was the extra staffing, the extra security, potentially the requirement to renovate and add space that would go along with table gaming. They actually were not certain that there would be an increased net proceeds. In Fort St. John, they are estimating that the net proceeds will go up in the neighborhood of $600,000, meaning that the amount to the city of Dawson Creek would go up by $60,000. We would have to engage our operator in a conversation about that before we could have similar estimates.
Councillor Schumann?
We need a motion.
Well, I think we should have a motion to direct administration if we do have an interest in terms of inviting them up to come and see us, present. Moved by Councillor Schumann, seconded McFadden. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Item 5, correspondence. We have 5-1. We have a letter from Jenny Spitz, the South BC SPCA, in regards to their annual community challenge thermometer request. Councillor Wilbur.
I'd like to make a motion that we allow them to put their thermometer up from April 25th to June 5th for their fundraiser, given they have permission from Safeway.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Schumann. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. We have a letter from Sean Miles, Treasurer of the Dawson Creek Harm Reduction Committee, regarding sponsorship for a speaking engagement. Councillor Schumann?
Yeah, so I've had opportunity to sit in on some of these harm reduction committee meetings in the past, and I would be prepared to make a motion that we sponsor this event to the tune of $1,000.
Moved by Councillor Schumann, seconded.
I'll second.
Councillor Parslow. Discussion? Councillor McFadden?
Harm reduction, who or from what?
So the harm reduction,
I've never heard of them.
the harm reduction committee is a committee of all sorts of different agencies throughout the community. We've got the Aboriginal groups. We have the health groups through the Northern Health. We have
All the public health people, all the gambling addiction, alcohol addiction, drug addiction, violence against women, social diseases, you name it. It's a plethora of people, about 50 odd in this community alone, who are working to try to reduce the harm that people inflict on themselves.
and it's they're doing really good work in the community. Over the past years that I've sort of been paying attention to it, and I feel this would be a worthy group to sponsor for this event.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Malkinson?
My question, Your Worship.
Do you want to ask him to maybe check with you first the next time?
No, it's fine. That's
All right.
fine.
Good.
No, I'm good.
Thank you. Any further questions, Councillor
Not a
Parslow?
question, but just an additional comment to those already been shared, is that the need for this focus is increasing with our booming economy. There's certain things happening, incidences that are just spiraling, and we need to try to help people deal with those issues.
Thank you. Further questions, comments? Ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. So we are, I was just going to move to our delegations because we're at 9 o'clock and I want to get those underway. So our first delegation this morning is Mr. Darcy Shawcheck, who was the Dawson Creek Facebook photo contest winner, and we sponsored and developed the photo contest, and so Darcy is our winner. So this is.
Are you all right?
Morning, Darcy. Nice to meet you. Welcome. So, Darcy, we had a photo contest that was initiated through City Hall as to for our Facebook page, and so we had a number of amazing entries into our photo contest, and the judges met, deliberated, spent days and days deciding the winner. Oh, they did. It was
Hours.
a-
It was
hours.
It was a great contest. Darcy's photo was the winning photo. It's a really terrific shot of our community, and so it's our pleasure to welcome him to City Council and present him with an Olympus TG 610. Yeah. Thank you very much. Does he get the picture too? That's ours. So this is getting hung up downstairs at the end.
Pass it
City
around?
Hall. So I'll pass it around. Darcy, thanks very much. Thank you for participating.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in council this morning, and we really appreciate you taking part. All of them. We got new
Perfect.
equipment, right? Thanks so much. Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Delegation number 2 is Danny Shields, and the delegation from our Mile Zero Cruisers are in attendance this morning to report on really the success of this endeavor that they've been putting forward over the last number of years, our Summer Cruise 2013, and update us on their plans for the Summer Cruise this year. So good morning, welcome you guys, thanks for coming,
Thank you for having us.
good to see you.
So a quick recap of last year, first of all. Just over 300 vehicles took part last year. That was in spite of some rather inclement weather at the last minute, which put the damper on quite a few things. But we did have 67 different communities that took part and came to Dawson Creek. So that's one of our high points. We do this for 3 things. Number 1, we want to draw attention to Dawson Creek and try to bring people into Dawson Creek. Number 2, we want to be able to share our cars with everybody else and display them and give an avenue for people to display them. And number 3, we want to have a location where different kinds of nonprofit groups can get out and take advantage of the crowds we bring in. And it was around 5,000 people that went through the show and shine on Sunday last year, so that they could take advantage of that. So we had that many communities come from out of town. I need to tell you about a couple phone calls. I had one on Friday, people from the island, Vancouver Island, phoning saying, when is the show and shine this year? We were driving through town last year, we saw it, we want to make sure we drive back up to Dawson Creek to see it again this year. There was a couple from the other side of Peace River that always made a point of coming. They don't have a car. They just come, and they would come for Sunday, and then they realize they're missing Friday, so they come for the weekend. Now they bring 2 other couples with them. So there are 6 couples. They just make a trip to Dawson Creek for the weekend so they can take in the car show and look at that kind of thing. We had 11 nonprofit groups last year that took part and made varying ranges of funds. Some did extremely well, thousands of dollars for their group, whether it was selling hot dogs, steak sandwiches, lottery tickets, that kind of thing. So that went extremely well that way as well. This year is actually, let's finish off last year first. Mr. Mayor, first of all, we do have a thank you card and a Sponsor's Choice Award, a local car. So we want to present that to you and a thank you card for that. And of course, for our counselors.
Is that my car? Is that what you're saying?
It lives fairly close
My
to
family's
where
up to
you
here.
used to live. And so we do have a small gift for you. Some of you may have to wash them in hot water. I'm sorry, because we were out of the real small sizes. Sue's on this side.
Thank you, Dan.
Thanks, Norm.
Well, look at
My
that.
name's spelled
Yeah.
right.
Always look forward to seeing you guys in your swag.
That's awesome.
And now you can look the part when you show up on that day. This year, this is our 20th annual this year. It's hard to believe, so we really want to do this one up big. We are inviting all previous top 10 or favorite 10. We don't have best 50s, best 60s, best 70s, whatever like that. We have our participants go out, they have a ballot, and they vote for their favorite 10 vehicles in the show. And so we might have, for instance, the 1928 Model A that has never been restored at all, but it was driven into this country by the guy's grandparents. and they arrived in Peace River in 1930 in that car, and it looks like it's been driven ever since. Really, really pretty car. Right up to some that are full showpieces. And so the participants vote on which car they want, and we're inviting all of those participants to come back this year. Hopefully we will. Another really big thing this year is the Mustang's 50th birthday this year. The Mustang was introduced on April 17th, 1964. And so our first goal is to have 50 Mustangs lined up. The second goal is to have one from each year, but it's going to be very difficult for some of those years. The early years are easy. Lots from 70 earlier. 74 to 78 is going to be extremely difficult. That's when it was the Mustang 2, was the little car. Not many people got into collecting those for some reason. And then if we get the 50 Mustangs, we're hoping to even get a whole lot more than that. So we're going to have an entire Mustang alley. We're going to have another section that's our previous top 10 awards. We have a few more nonprofits that are hoping to come back. Last year, for the first time, we teamed up with, they were the Peace River Luck News, now it's the Alaska Highway News, and we did a full color insert. We're doing that again this year. It's going to be even bigger with a lot of historical shots in it from historical 20 years ago. And then as well as our sponsors and other things happening in the city. So that one is not only going to go in the newspaper, it's going to be mailed out, and for the first time it's going to be delivered electronically across the province. And that will be out a month ahead of time. So we're actually delivering that to places like Linton, Lillooet, the hotbed of hot rod kind of stuff, and hopefully we'll get even more people coming up that way. So we invite you to come out. We'll probably drop by just beforehand to let you know how things are going. Schedule's pretty much like it has been previous years. On Friday, it's the cruise in and barbecue at the Co-op. Co-op has been our sponsor for all 20 years, one of the ones that have been there for the entire time. Saturday, we'll have our car games and rally around town. The ever-popular blindfold drive through the obstacle course will be there. And plus a couple new ones that I'm not telling because I don't want them to know what it is. But it's not going to be easy. And then Saturday night is our banquet, and then we do a large cruise. We've been out to Rawl and a few other places. Pretty wild to see 80 cars all lined up and heading out. And then Sunday is the big show and shine. And like we say, we hope to break all records this year. Last year was just over 300 cars. We don't want to put a number on it, just we want to have a lot more than we ever have before. Any questions?
Councillor Parslow.
What is the exact weekend?
July 11th, 12th, and 13th. Change your holidays. Duncan's going to have his car in it this year.
Yep. I'm looking forward to it. I had, well, it wasn't the best. Well, it was good last year. But I'll have it in working order and just be perfect this year.
It'll be running even better this year. So we invite you to come out, be watching for our stuff. If you have any suggestions on how we can attract more people, we're more than open to any kind of suggestions or ideas. And just in closing, we really appreciate the support of the City of Dawson Creek. Your support more than anything helps us advertise this the way it needs to be advertised and bring all those people in. When my phone starts ringing right about now from people out of town, when is this? And half of them at least don't have cars. They're just coming for the weekend to watch. So we consider those bonus visitors to Dawson Creek for the weekend. To say nothing of the tourists that come through, see what's going on, and then stay those couple extra days. Great, thank you very much.
Danny, thank you.
Thank
And,
you.
on behalf of the city, obviously what makes your community really a great place to live is the volunteers that put in their time, effort, and energy, not for financial reasons and not for any other purpose than to really show their appreciation and the passion for our community. And certainly I know you've been instrumental in this over the 20 years that it's been
Thanks,
going,
team.
and all of these folks with you. So we just want to extend our appreciation to you, all of you, for putting in the time, effort, and the passion for this that brings the attention to our community on an annual basis. So thank you on behalf of council
Thank
and
you.
city. Thanks for coming this morning.
Thank you.
Give it to Cheryl.
Our next delegation this morning, I don't know if he needs any introduction or not, but he's going to get some introduction. And so item 6.3 is, sorry, they don't, either one of them need any introduction, because it's Kevin and Barb Knoblaw. The family name in this community is synonymous with just being really valuable business people in our community and supporting our community in such an amazing way, of having that profile that Kevin's parents had up at the corner of 8th Street and Imperial Access Road for as long as I remember, and now following that, the Valley Gardens. And no trip in the summertime or fall for my wife and I was ever not to go to Valley Gardens and drive down into the valley and find the Knoblaw farm busy producing their amazing fruits, vegetables.
Oh, no, Your Worship, I only brought one hanky.
And so, so I met with Kevin about a month ago, and he's got a presentation that he'd like to give us a little bit of an update on. And so welcome to both of you this morning.
Well, thank you very much. You want to sit up with me, Barb? You can do all the talking here. I don't know.
We'd prefer that, actually.
Well, gee, thank you, Your Worship, for that kind in the introduction. I feel like it should be on Dave Letterman or something here. You know, I was always told, you know, this as a point of protocol. I was told from the time I was quite young that we all get 15 minutes of fame. And I just wanted to know if there's any chance that 10 minutes you've given me could be bumped up to 12 and a half?
No, you got 10, so time's money and a grave's a place to rest. Hi ho, hi ho.
I'll read every other line. Yeah, we just got started last fall, and we saw the news in the paper about Site C.
Should we reach that?
We just got started thinking about what makes our little garden work, and we realized that you got to have the right soil, and you got to have the right water, and you got to have a good sheltered spot to grow stuff in.
Thank you. I got it.
And then we got thinking, gosh, you know, we really don't have that many of those areas in the entire Peace Country if you start adding them up. You know, our total alluvial floodplains in the entire Peace Country probably don't exceed, that are arable and eventually at some point accessible. They probably don't exceed 20,000 acres in all of our river valleys. The very best river valley we've got, of course, everybody knows, is the Peace River Valley for produce production for horticultural activities. I've been in the Peace River Valley for an awful lot of years, and actually the original farm we had there that Dale was talking about, we reclaimed from an old gravel pit. Most of the Peace River Valley has been dug up for sand and gravel for years and years now. They started actually back in the Second World War with the Alaska Highway. These areas are very finite and disappearing, and that's what really brought me to alarm and brought me to the point where I thought, how can I bring this to the attention of our elected officials, to the attention of our provincial government, the value of these lands. And so I ended up having to make a case for northern horticulture in general. And I got thinking, how can we possibly really do something in terms of tangible things right in the community to make more northern horticulture, more orchards, more gardens, better vitamins for people in the community, which is what I live for. What our mission statement is really is bringing quality fresh vitamins to people that they don't get from products that shipped in. I really don't see the value there myself, but my customers sure seem to for some strange reason. Every year we seem to sell out, and I've had some horrible stuff over the years. But anyway, I just wanted to bring this fact of the alluvial floodplains throughout the Peace region to the attention of all of our community people. You can take this home and think about it. It's kind of an anomaly for civilization to develop in an area without the food production on alluvial floodplains happening first. Usually that has to take precedence for the simple reason that it's a primary industry. It's deemed essential to the survival of civilization. This region, the towns in the north, have since inception really been dependent to a large degree on produce and food shipped in. And shipped from California, New Zealand, you name it. More so from overseas. Chile, everybody likes their grapes from Chile this time of year. So we really don't have a history of having a meaningful food production occurring on these alluvial floodplains. I can foresee the day, and I really appreciated the meeting I had with Charlie Parslow the other day, and we ended up talking for 2 hours about stuff like this. But I can foresee the day, given current weather trends, global changes in food production ability, global warming. I can see all of these things impacting food production in other areas in a very significant way, and possibly impacting on the ability of people in this region to be able to get access to affordable produce and other foods from other areas. And I foresee these areas in our alluvial floodplains with a huge potential for horticultural production, which nominally is valued at about $10,000 to $20,000 per acre if it's farmed well. As this area could become actually an exporter of horticultural products as other areas in the continent become less viable due to global warming and weather impacts. And I can see that happening pretty quick. I mean, just one simple little example. The rail companies are crying about all the snow this winter, so you get 50 ships sitting offshore that can't even get Canadian grain to market. All kinds of things could cause interruptions to our food. So then the overarching question becomes, how can we make our own communities more resilient and more self-sufficient to begin with in food production? So that's where I thought, I really appreciated Dale asking me to bring that to your attention. How can we do that? So I've made a list of things. I hope everybody's had the chance to read my first little ditty that I had there. I've got another list of I believes here that, you know, it's a curse when you've been on the internet and had it for the last 5 years, and then all of a sudden you no longer have internet because I've moved out to the valley for the winter. So this is the result of it, me ramming away on the computer, my old aging laptop. So I apologize for what I've done here, but I just thought these points would be something that council could take into consideration in your deliberations, and the previous submission that you had from that I was considering being taken into. I've got steps that we could take to maybe improve our northern health outcomes. And I've got, can you as City Council endorse in principle that all 4 levels of government become more aware and proactive in protecting the finite land base known as River Valley Alluvial Floodplain for all present and future field production irrigated horticulture, with a view to putting measures or legislation in place to protect this very special finite land base. In an extended drought in our own region, only river valley alluvial floodplains can be irrigated without destroying the soil. Point 2, can you as City Council endorse in principle that all 4 levels of government become more aware of our overdependence on the 18-wheeler buffet from south of 49, and that they therefore have a duty to develop and foster more local food production programs within their administrations? Point 3, can you as City Council endorse in principle that an emergency food preparedness program be undertaken through Northern Health to educate people on how to stock and maintain an emergency supply of food and water? And can you as City Council consider endorsing a move to introducing horticulture and gardening into the school curriculums to give kids and parents a better awareness of their own ability to grow food for themselves, especially in their own backyards? And can you as council endorse in principle the development of a horticulture program at Northern Lights College to encourage this as a valid career option for the future of local horticultural productivity in the Peace region? And I just find it astounding that our provincial government hasn't got anything at the college, and we have nothing at the grade school level. And I think we're going to have to think in terms of how can we make people that want to garden when I'm dead and moldering in my grave. We've got to start with the kids. The kids love being out there. and getting their hands dirty. They love that anything to do with the outdoors. They should be getting out there in the spring, and they should all have a little garden outside of the schools to do that in, or at the college. The more Barb and I talked about it, the more we thought we've got to get the kids out there and get their hands on at a young age. So I've got some proposals for trying to do that in an orchard community garden situation in the college. I think we can do a lot better that way. I'd like to see us be a lot more proactive as a community in growing our own fruit trees. The new varieties that we have available now are just tremendous. There's some tremendous new hardy varieties that people are picking up on. The other points that I've presented to Mayor Bumstead in letter about other ideas about community gardens, I very much thank him for taking into consideration and discussing when you guys have got the time to. I've covered a whole wide range of stuff here, and probably has turned into a real garden soup by now. But I just got so much encouragement from Councillor Parslow the other day when we met about gardens and about what we could be doing at the college. I think that if I can get a few of the councillors, a few of our community people behind us, put a little more pressure on our wonderful MLA Mike Bernier, and hopefully the provincial government can come in here with some help to create maybe a community orchard at the college to start with. You won't get kids interested in gardening and horticulture and growing our own food here unless they can see by example what the possibilities are.
So Kevin, thank you. I'm going to just update council very quickly that Kevin and Barb were at the Peace River Regional District about probably a month ago, presented the board at the Peace River Regional District have taken and supported the initiatives put forward by the Noblaws to move it forward to our Peace River Regional District Agricultural Advisory Board. It's a great place for us as a region to be supporting the initiatives that are being put forward by the Noblaws. And certainly the strength in our community and the strength in our region comes from lobbying the provincial government through that arm, because absolutely the unanimous support then flows from the entire region. So with that, I'm going to throw it back to council if anyone has any questions. Councillor McFadden.
I think, thank you for coming in. I think you raised some very valid points, especially with in regard to your comments about the schools and the college. And I'm wondering if there's an opportunity in there somewhere for Melanie and her folks to work with Mr. Doblaw and contact the schools and the college. I just don't know how. I think it should be followed up, but I just don't know how to do it.
Okay.
I don't know how to be the best way.
Further questions? Councillor Schumann?
Oh, yeah. So thank you so much for coming in today. I share many of the same concerns as you do. You know, the ALR's up in the air right now. Everything seems to be, I don't know, so uncertain out there with regards to agriculture, especially in the north. And I really appreciate the passion that you guys, you know, taking it out and making us all more aware. And there's many of those things that I certainly could endorse. And I really like Mayor Bumstead's idea of going to the regional district's agriculture committee. I think it's the place to start and get the whole region on board. So
Yeah, I'd like to see possibly as one key endorsement by council, if it would be possible, take it into consideration at a future meeting to endorse the idea of bringing it into legislation to protect some at least key alluvial floodplain areas, especially those that are in close proximity to our northern communities. I think that's really, really key. We've got so few areas that are within close driving range, Councillor Schumann, that really do need to be protected so that we can have that farm garden experience and have the right confluence of best in location alluvial floodplain with all weather access that can be maintained as a core for what could be as much as $100 million industry, if my calculations are right, as much as $100 million to the entire region, if people actually started to endorse and embrace the agricultural discipline called horticulture. It has built the Okanagan, it owns the Okanagan, it is a key point or platform for the whole economy of the southern mainland, and it is the industry that built California. The gross domestic product of Holland, which is primarily as a result of horticulture, is greater than the gross domestic product of Canada.
So I'm afraid I have to, we've got other delegations
Yeah.
coming in behind, so thank you very much for coming this morning. And Councillor Parslow?
I imagine we'll, in the questions that are posed in the brief, we'll be discussing those under Mayor's business
Yeah,
after. Yeah.
we'll bring it back.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. Our next delegation, item 6.4, we have Troy Erickson and John Webster from the ARC and Young Life in attendance. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning.
So the floor is yours.
All right, excellent. Hello, everybody.
Good morning.
Spot here. My name is Troy Erickson. I'm the director of the ARC, and this is John Webster. He's the director of Young Life, Dawson Creek. Our proposal to you is for fees to be waived for the use of the Memorial Arena for our third annual Icebreaker Ball Hockey Tournament, which is April 26th at Memorial Arena. We're hosting it at the Memorial Arena as well as at the ARC that day. It's for youth ages 9 to 18 years old. We anticipate, I would say, 100 and plus kids attending the tournament. It's been a huge success for us the last 2 years. It's grown each year. The first year we held it just at the ARC. The second year we used the ARC and Encana Center. And this year we're hoping to use Memorial Arena just because it's more central to the community, and that way kids can be involved and see Dawson Creek a little bit better, because we have out-of-town teams coming as well. So, yeah, that is our proposal for you.
Thank you. So any questions, Council? So, sorry, Councillor Wilbur?
Oh, I was just gonna say, the ARC does a wonderful job, and I'm just wondering, I don't think we can waive fees, but is there a possibility of giving a grant?
So, through to administration?
Through your worship, your policy says you won't waive fees, but you can give a grant. Of course, this application has passed the deadline for your granting. The requests from the group, not just for the bare floor, but some requests for chairs and tables and mics and stuff, adds up to about $1,200 on your fee schedule. But the groups qualify for your lowest rate. So at the rate of $1,200, the taxpayer is paying $1,200 and the group is paying $1,200. And the group is asking the taxpayers pay $2,400. So that's the nuts of the request.
So the grant would be then, if we approve the request, and instead of a fee, it would be a grant?
Yes.
Would be up to $2,400?
No, it would be
No.
$1,200
$1,200?
because you already have a policy that the taxpayers will pick up half of this.
Thank you. Councillor Schumann?
And could we call it a sponsorship instead of a grant, just to get away from the whole, we're past the grant intake, da-da-da-da?
Actually, no, you'd need, there's no sponsorship aspect about this. This isn't, there aren't going to be, there isn't going to be an advertising opportunity out of this. You'd need to waive your policy to allow the grant.
So this will come back under Mayor's business then, is that the idea?
Sure.
There-
May I add that both of our organizations are not receiving a profit because of this tournament. The money that is, say, earned through this tournament will be going directly back into our programs, where we will be offering scholarships for teenagers to play at the ball hockey tournament, or not the ball hockey tournament, but at the ARC, or vice versa with Young Life. We'll be sending teenagers to camp. So we're not making a profit because of this. We want to be part of the community. The community is very gracious to our organizations, and we just believe that this is another way of giving back to the community. We're bringing groups from Edmonton, St. Albert, so we are bringing some attention to Dawson Creek, and we're hoping that this tournament will grow into something bigger. But as time goes on, we have to be patient in regards to how we put on the tournament. Because we believe in quality rather than quantity, and so we really want to make sure that our program is up to par. And if the city would be willing to take part in this tournament with us, we would be definitely gracious with your help.
So thank you, John.
Yes, thanks.
And so for explanation, for the purpose of explanation, the board, council sets policy. And so
Sure.
we have a policy that says how we set the fees and charges for facilities and how that qualifies. And then we have a grant process, and through the course of the year, you have a time frame in which you can apply for those grants. And unfortunately, you've just missed that. So what we have to do now is we don't agree to a recommendation or a motion at this point. We will bring it back under mayor's business,
Okay.
and then it'll have a chance for council to decide. And we can't waive the fee because that's part of our policy, but we could make a grant to you in that amount. And we'll bring that back in a few minutes under the mayor's business.
Sure.
All right.
Sounds good.
So thank you. Councillor Wilbur?
I just wanted to add to say thank you to you guys, because not only do you offer something for the youth to do in our community, but you create a preventative place to go for youth that might be at risk. So I just wanted to say thank you for everything that you guys do at the ARC. You're a wonderful asset to our community.
I echo Councillor Wilbur's comments, Your Worship.
Yeah, the reputation of ARC can go unspoken. You guys have demonstrated that over the years, so we really appreciate the work, the efforts that you've done in helping make our community better.
Thank you.
So we'll bring it back under mayor's business.
Okay.
Thank you for coming
Thank
this
you.
morning. Our next delegation, item 6.5, is Duncan Redfern, Matthew McWilliam, and Melanie Turcott from the city of Dawson Creek in attendance regarding our Earth Hour proclamation. Good morning. How are ya? Welcome to City Council. I'm a non-discriminatory hugger.
I left this out to take pictures of delegations.
Come on, Dunk, come on in. Come on up front.
It's all right, shameful.
So whereas Earth Hour is a global movement that began in Sydney, Australia in 2007, encouraging individuals, businesses, and governments to take positive actions for the environment by switching off their lights for one designated hour. And whereas Earth Hour 2014 is being held from 8:30 to 9:30 p.m. on Saturday, March 29th, and the theme of 2014 is a moment of darkness. And whereas the city of Dawson Creek will be once again participating by shutting off all non-essential lighting in the city facilities during Earth Hour. Now therefore I do hereby proclaim 8:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. on Saturday, March 29th as Earth Hour, and encourage all residents in and around Dawson Creek to show the world they care by turning off lights during that hour. There you go, guys. Thanks a lot. Thank you. Thank you.
I think we'll start with Matt maybe here.
Sure, yeah. So just on behalf of the city, we want to stress that this is a community event. BC Hydro is kind enough to track the results of that current hour compared to business as usual. And we'd really like to strive for a personal best, or our city best. We had a 3.6% reduction in 2011, and we'd like to see the community strive to achieve even better than that this year. So we'll have a chance to follow up with this in a few weeks and see how we come out. Yeah, once again, it's a community event, so the city's doing its part, and we pass that challenge on to the community to do their part as well.
And this community challenge is actually out to other municipalities. So in past years, we've had the communities of Fort St. John, Tumbler Ridge, Spruce Coopee, I believe Chetwynd, and Taylor all were participating. So we put the challenge out to Dawson Creek.
Just focused on a facilities side of it. We'll, as mentioned in the proclamation, we will shut off non-essential lights and we will participate across the city where we can.
Good. Thank you guys so much. Thank you for this morning.
How come we can't do that like every night?
So I'm going to take a 5-minute quick break for
Yeah. I want them all
everyone.
every night. Every night.
I was going to ask.
Under correspondence, item 5.3 that we didn't get to complete. We have a letter from Christina Vanderwall, trade show co-chair for the Dawson Creek Kiwanis Club.
Your Worship, unfortunately, I believe I'm in conflict here, being on the Kiwanis executive.
Yes.
So I suppose I'll step out.
Thank you. Councillor Parslow?
I would like to move that we grant their request for a special occasion permit for the evening of April the 12th, 2014.
Thank you. Councillor Schumann, discussion? Just for the purposes of the media, it was a request for the host Kiwanis Club to have a special occasion permit for their trade show, and coming up on April 5th, I think it starts. Further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you.
You were eavesdropping.
That gets us all of our correspondence. Reports, item 7, 7.1. We have a report from the Director of Corporate Administration regarding the 2015 Energy Conference. Councillor Parslow?
Yeah, I appreciated the report. So I'd like to move that report number 14-042 from the Director of Corporate Administration, the 2015 Energy Conference be received for discussion.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Wilbur. Discussion?
Well, we'll receive it, then we'll have a discussion.
Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Councillor Parslow.
Yes, I noticed that there seems to be a plethora of energy conferences now, and I remember Mayor Bernier raising the question about, has this rotation through the northeast communities past its time? And so I think as there are now sort of a regular smorgasbord of energy conferences as it relates to the NLG, I see little value in these municipal-led conferences. Any resources being aware of supporting municipal interests might be better served attending the, if you like, broader conferences. That's my perspective on it.
Thank you. Councillor Malkinson?
Well, I can certainly understand Councillor Parslow's comments there. I do remember hearing echoes of some of the participants of the conference even expressing maybe some sort of a apathy or just felt it was a little too much. So I certainly would be prepared. Well, actually, I will move that we do not go ahead with the 2015 Energy Conference.
Seconder? Councillor Parslow, discussion? Councillor Wilbur?
I actually don't think I can support that. With what's going on in our area and stuff, I think it's a great opportunity for us to showcase our community, touch base with those that are going to be doing work around here, and I see a benefit of hosting this energy conference.
Councillor McFadden?
Well, I don't know yet. It seems I was of the mindset that attendance, both from energy companies, municipalities, and the service industry that supported the trade show portion of it, were gradually decreasing as each conference was held, and almost every time you turn around, there's an energy conference somewhere every year, and I don't know what to think about this. I agree with Councillor Wilbur that it's important, and I also agree with Councillor Parslow. What's the point? Almost, I don't know. Help me out here, somebody.
Councillor Wilbur?
I'm just wondering, maybe it's taking the perspective at looking at what has worked and what hasn't worked, and coming up with a plan to host that conference. I know in the past we've had very successful ones, so why was that, and what's changed? And maybe looking at those dynamics and then planning around that. I just see a huge benefit considering where we're at right now with development.
Councillor Malkinson?
If you look at sort of the origin of the conference, you know, the idea that it would be a place for people that were, I suppose, new to the area that could, you know, network and become a little more associated to raise profile of people that are considering or trying to learn more about new developments in the area. I think that we're going full thrust right now, and I'm not certain that at least the role that this conference was intended to play in the initial stages of development in this area is so relevant right now, and I just don't think it's necessary for us to go ahead with. You know, couple that. Forgive
Go
me.
ahead.
Couple that with the concerns that I've already mentioned, of course, which are the you know, the participants themselves saying that they didn't feel that it was necessary. You know, that many of them felt that it was more of a loyalty or a you know, an opportunity to well, they felt almost compelled to go, maybe. But that's I'm just recounting some arguments that I recall from months ago when we did discuss this with former Mayor Bernier. But that's just myself.
Thank you. Councillor Wilbur?
I'm like a dog with a bone. I can't let it go. Anyways, I just see it as an opportunity to market our local small business companies that maybe could be service industry for what's going on. So I think there's opportunity here, and I think we seriously need to consider and look at that and give that opportunity to our local businesses to market themselves, and from other communities, and invite them to come forward, say from Chetwynd or Hope or Moberly Lake. What services are available, and give them that opportunity to market that to the oil and gas industry. I see a benefit.
Councillor McFadden?
I guess my question would be, what's the net? Is there a net financial gain to the city, or do we end up, does it end up costing money, or do we break even, or do we make a nickel?
Jim?
Through your worship, up until the last energy conference, we had always broken even or better. The last conference lost money. Registrations were down. Trade fair booth participation was down. Sponsorships were down. And we had to engage hired contractor to run the event because there were no longer staff resources available to do that. So for the combination of those reasons, the last event was the first one that has lost money.
Thank you. Councillor Parslow?
Yeah, I think as, you know, this gas exploration phase has developed a little more solidity, I don't see the need for us having these conferences. I mean, I noticed that in 2014 there's, 9 conferences planned, some in our region, others are in easy access, and to me, as you know from past conversations, every dollar we don't spend can help deal with our infrastructure. And I think we've budgeted 50,000, is it, this year, for the gas conference?
Actually, the only budget this year is the sponsorship being provided to Fort Nelson. The budget for actually running the event would be in the 2015 budget.
And the amount might be, what, 20?
I think it was 25, yes.
Yeah.
In the 5-year plan.
25,000, yeah. So.
Further discussion? Councillor Malkinson?
Well, I'm certainly I've spoken what I feel about the conference as it exists in Dawson Creek, but I do believe that this undertaking is a partnership with Fort St. John and Fort Nelson. So perhaps some dialogue with them before we proceed with this might be prudent. Perhaps we could send a letter to them before making a final decision on this.
What would you ask them?
We don't want to do this anymore.
And I'm pretty sure they'll say, okay, we will. Councillor Parslow.
Well, point of information, staff can correct me, but my impression is that Fort Nelson has now embarked on doing its own thing, hasn't it? Am I wrong?
Through your worship, Fort Nelson took a pass on 1 year of doing it. They're doing it again this year. We don't know what their position will be. The three communities in the protocol, Fort St. John, Fort Nelson, Dawson Creek, gather at each conference to determine whether there's going to be a conference the following year. We just need some direction to go to that meeting, one way or the other.
Okay. Thank you.
So this would give, the motion would give direction.
Yes.
Further discussion? For me, I guess the issue is really you look at it over the history of the evolution of how the conference came to be, and it was about, we're hearing about the development of the oil and gas industry in our community, our region, and how is that development going to affect us? How can we leverage it as part of economic development for our region and our specific communities? And we've been working hard, I think, over the last 7 or 8 years to try to ensure that Dawson Creek maintains some momentum with that development as it goes on within our community. And for $25,000 in terms of putting that forward for a budget to host it, our Northwest Business Magazine, I use as an example, we spent $3,500 on it in order to promote the community of Dawson Creek and the businesses within it. And so I guess my concern right now is saying, you guys have a better history of understanding what took place in the last one or the one before in Dawson Creek, and if it lost us money to analyze that and what were some of the implications to it. But for me, what's going on in our region and our community as a result of the development of this industry, I think we should be significant in terms of our focus about how we ensure we leverage the opportunities that present itself. And so I'm nervous about saying I don't want to do it again. And that's just my comments on it. Further questions, comments?
Well, further, I mean, you've referenced the fact you haven't had the opportunity yet attending. My perspective, I can't see how it benefits the community at all. But
Sure.
That's just my observations.
Thank you. Further comments, questions? Ready for the question? All in.
So can we just
Sorry.
refresh what the motion is?
In favor is get rid of it.
We're not going
And vote against is
to
to keep
put the allocation to support it for 2015.
To not.
Yeah, so that administration, when they go to the meeting and the event in Fort Nelson, when we attend, that we would advise them that we're not going to host it in 2015. Are you ready for the question? All in favor of the motion? Opposed? It's defeated. Parslow, Malkinson in favor. The others opposed. So, do you need a motion? No? For direct? Thank you. Item 7.2, we have a report from the Deputy Director of Infrastructure Sustainable Development in regards to the Loran Booster Station. Councillor Wilbur.
I'll make the motion that report number 14-044 from the Deputy Director of Infrastructure and Sustainable Development regarding Loran Booster Station tender number 2014-03 be received. Further, that council award the tender for the Loran Booster Station to Higgy Construction for $1,528,000 plus tax.
Thank you. Seconded, Councillor McFadden. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Item 7.3, we have a report number 14045 from the Director of Infrastructure with the development permit from T. Stewart Sheet Metal. Councillor Malkinson.
Move that we receive this report from our Director of Infrastructure and Sustainable Development regarding this development permit application from T. Stewart Sheet Metal Limited for 436 114th Avenue, and further that this development permit for the development of an industrial building at 436 114th Avenue be authorized in principle and issued upon successful completion of the 10-day notification period and receipt of the financial security.
Thank you. Seconded. Councillor Schumann. Discussion?
Why did I put my hand up?
All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Item 7.4, we have a report number 14048, Director of Infrastructure Sustainable Development regarding a building permit applications for 933 and 937 88th Avenue. Councillor Parslow?
Just a point of procedure, if I may. This recommendations references the proposed zoning amendment bylaw number 4204. Would it not be better to deal with this matter after we've had some discussion about that?
Probably, I think it's, at this point, we would need to withhold, motion to withhold it until we deal with the zoning amendment bylaw. Jim?
Through your worship, the Act says for the first 7 days after you had noticed your intention to consider, in this case, adjusting the allowable floor space for a suite in a single-family home from the provincial standard and the building code definitions to a more restrictive definition. For 7 days, people could apply for a permit under the old regulations, and it had to be granted. From that 8th day forward to today, anyone applying, staff has no authority to withhold their permit, but council does. There is a possibility that if you change those regulations, this application, if you haven't passed a withholding resolution first, this application would be grandfathered and be allowed to continue. So I think it's the reverse of what Councillor Parslow said. I think you need to dispose of this matter before you get to your decision on the changes to the zoning bylaw.
Thank you. Motion?
I'll bring it up.
Well, if can I just make sure I understand what
Sure.
illustrious CAO just said, that as I understand it, we have, should we pass this recommendation as presented, and if there was further changes to the bylaw I referenced earlier, then this decision of council would be overturned by the bylaw amendment, and this matter could then go ahead. Is that right interpretation?
No, through your worship, this is a motion to withhold a permit under the old regs for 30 days. 30 days from now, if the regs have changed, the permit can't be issued. Do you follow what I'm saying? This is the Act requires you to pass a specific withholding resolution for a specific period of time. We've tagged 30 days, which is the maximum under which you can withhold. And then at the end of that 30 days, if you have made changes to regulations, then the new regulations apply because you're withholding a permit under the old regulations. If you don't wish to do that, just let this one go ahead and it will be built under the old regs regardless of what you later decide.
So you got it?
No,
Oh.
I haven't.
So,
What's your understanding, Dan?
so we have an application for a permit. We've given some proposed changes to a bylaw, first and second reading, but it hasn't passed. So if we wish to proceed, this building permit could be authorized. It comes back to council because there has been first and second reading giving to a proposed change to the bylaw. So we're the only ones that can give the authority for the permit to proceed at this point.
No, to be withheld.
Or to be withheld.
Yeah. Yes.
And otherwise it could proceed. So because we got the bylaw in front of us, it was brought forward for council in terms of do we want to proceed with, or do we want to withhold it? Go ahead.
Hey,
Councillor Malkinson.
I believe I have two questions, if I can remember the second by the time I'm done the first. The first question is, are we withholding for the purpose of applying the proposed amendments to the zoning bylaw to this application?
So yes, you would be withholding so that if you subsequently change the regulations, that the larger suites wouldn't be permitted to be built in this home.
Okay. My second question, Your
Or
Worship.
these homes, period, or plural.
My second question, Your Worship, is what if if a different direction was taken with the matter that we're considering for the zoning? What if some different direction was taken at that point in the meeting?
So through your worship, if your decision was to abandon your proposed amendments and let the existing regulations continue in their current form, then the withholding motion would be mute, because you're not actually authorized to withhold permits that are lawful under your own consideration. If you were to decide to restart the process, ask for a further amendment that took it back to first reading and another public hearing, and you didn't get all of that done within 30 days, then you would have to consider extending the withholding for a further 30 days, which you can also do under the Act.
Thank you. Councillor Parslow?
Okay, now I think I understand this. So thank you, everyone. I'd like to move the recommendation so that we deal with this business. That report number 14-048 from the Director of Infrastructure and Sustainable Development, rebuilding permit applications for 933 and 937 88th Avenue be received. Further, that building permit applications dated March the 7th, 2014 for 933 and 937 88th Avenue be withheld for a period of 30 days because the proposed floor area of the secondary suites are larger than the maximum allowed under the proposed floor area calculation in proposed zoning amendment bylaw number 4204.
Thank you. Seconded. Councillor Malkinson. Discussion? Ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Item 7.5, we have a report from the Deputy Director of Community Services regarding the library budget increase. Councillor Malkinson.
Move that we receive this report from our Deputy Director of Community Services and that Council approve an increase of $12,125 to the library budget to accommodate the recently negotiated collective agreement between the Public Library Board and the Canadian Union of Public Employees.
Thank you. Seconded. Councillor Schumann. Discussion? Councillor Malkinson.
I suppose for Council's information, and it is certainly stated in the recommendation, but this is, of course, just the result of the recent, well, I don't believe it's been finalized yet, but the negotiations that are going between the staff at the library and the board itself. So,
thank you. Any further questions, comments? You ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Item 8, bylaws. 8.1, we have a zoning amendment bylaw 1402, bylaw 4204, 2014, amending the secondary suite regulations for consideration of third reading and adoption. Councillor Wilbur?
I'm actually not in support of the third reading. I think we're creating a Pandora's box of future problems that could come ahead, and I'm prepared to make a motion actually to rescind the first two readings of the bylaw. I think we have some major issues. I think there's issues around the percentage of floor space. I think we need to have some stronger policy around this. I'm concerned that, you know, any shared space between the upper floor and a suite could actually become a part of that suite. And I think we need to have some strict guidelines around that, because now we're going to have larger suites. So I think that's an issue. The biggest concern I've heard about is not so much the suites. Even within the letters we've received, it's the parking. And so we really need to deal with that issue. We need to have clear definition of where that parking is, what it consists of. You know, we did get a letter from Mr. Hansen, which those buildings came before, but the whole front yard is concrete. I mean, I could understand why the neighbors in that area are upset. And every building is a duplicate of itself. So there's no difference in aesthetics on the exterior of the buildings. I think those are issues. I think the secondary suite creates a whole bunch of other things that are feeding into it. I don't think the suites are the problem. You know, I think we have to define what that front looks like, what that driveway consists of. Is it concrete, pavement, gravel? What's the green space? I mean, these are the complaints that are coming forward. We've heard some, you know, from the realtors in town saying, you know, they're causing problems with sales. Well, that's a cutthroat industry. So either you're working really hard to sell the houses you have listed, or someone's working harder than you to sell them, or some realtors just list and have other people sell them for them. So to me, that's a moot point on the secondary suites, because that's just the nature of the industry. You know, I look at the neighborhood plan we have for Sunset Ridge and Harvest View, and I think that's a really high standard that the city worked really hard on coming up with and presenting to the public. It fits with our OCP, and I'm wondering if that shouldn't be the standard of all development in our community. This is what a a neighborhood looks like to us, and so everybody should be set at that bar. I don't think that we should be hodgepodging development. Like, we look at one particular area or one development permit. I think we need to look at the whole picture throughout Dawson Creek. There's lots of development taking place, and some of it fits and some of it doesn't, and we've made those decisions. But I think we need to set the bar a little higher, and I see a can of worms opening up here. I see us opening the door for rooming houses, and I think we're not dealing with the parking. Maybe we need to have greater bylaw enforcement through policy on parking. If you're supposed to be in a designated parking spot, that's where you should be. And if you're on the street, then maybe we need to look at that. Our development cost charges, maybe we should be looking at increasing that fee for duplexes with suites. There's ways to control this, and I don't think that just saying, nope, we're not having them anymore is the answer. I think we're creating ourselves a bigger problem if we do. So I am prepared to make the motion. I guess if I can do that now, it's quite lengthy, so bear with me.
Procedure.
Okay.
Okay.
Question. Should the motion to rescind be dealt with first before we have, you said, a presentation of another motion?
Mm-hmm.
Just a procedure, I think.
Jim?
Through your worship, the first motion in on this matter is Shaylee's, and it proceeds until you've disposed of it. So whatever it is, whatever motion Councillor Wilbur is making has precedence because the form didn't require a motion. So the first motion could have been to read it a third and fourth time, but as it happens, the first motion not yet seconded is to rescind first and second.
Sure. Okay.
All right, so I'd like to make a motion to rescind the first and second reading of zoning amendment bylaw number 4024, 2014, that a committee be formed to explore development of subdivisions, including but not limited to regulating secondary suites, parking, green space, laneways, percentage of habitable floor space, shared space, and repeats of exterior design. Further, that the committee be made up of council, staff, developers, investors, builders, realtors, and that the committee's recommendations be ready for the April 28th council meeting. Date
Thank
could
you.
be amended.
Seconded. Councillor Schumann. Discussion. Councillor Malkinson.
Well, thank you, Your Worship. I thank you for recognizing me over Terry. There was a couple of...
It's not fair.
Not fair. There certainly were a few things that resonated with me in Shaylee's words there. I certainly appreciate some of the work that she's devoted to the exploration of this topic, and, well, rather for months and months, not just in the recent weeks. But I just... My take on it, I suppose, is that we've received a lot of feedback since these proposed changes. I'm all for having a zoning bylaw that is that promotes community, that makes our neighborhoods stronger, that makes them more livable, and makes Dawson Creek the best community in the piece. And I think that a lot of the measures that are in there are certainly in favor of that, but just owing to the recent feedback that we've gotten, I'm just, if we're going to do this, we got to do it right. I certainly think that if we can have a wider, more engrossing, more encompassing conversation with all proponents, all those affected by this bylaw, which I believe would include citizens of Dawson Creek as well. But any sort of, if we can make sure that we do this right, respecting all parties' points of view, even the ones that we've received in recent weeks, I certainly wouldn't mind us going down that route. And I'm not sure whether some of Councillor Wilbur's concerns that she mentioned in her prelude there, or her be it enacted clause, about parking and other issues might have been rectified in the recent subdivision bylaw the council adopted in 2013. I'm not certain, but I certainly would love a comment from staff on that, if it could be provided at this moment.
Through your worship, most of the items raised in the motion have been peripherally dealt with in the official community plan process, but not specifically dealt with. So if they're going to be converted from aspirational targets in the official community plan to regulation and mandatory targets, that's a new process and quite a piece of work, which council may well feel is worthwhile. It wasn't identified in your strategic planning, and so there's no resourcing to it. And I'm going to be without a planner very shortly, as you're aware. And so I think targeting, populating a citizen committee, doing this work and having a report off by April is, I don't think, doable. I think there's no, and even so, anything that came out of that wouldn't be in place in time to affect this construction season. So if the motion is well received by council, I think you might want to take the end date off it until we could have a wider discussion about resourcing and when we could get it done.
Thank you. Councillor McFadden?
What is the impact then, if this, if Councillor Wilbur's motion were to be successful, what is the impact on existing and perhaps future development permits or building permits until such time as a decision is made on her work?
Through your worship, the old rules apply until new rules replace them.
Thank you.
Councillor Wilbur?
In saying that, though, we do have the perspective to look at those development permits and very thoroughly and see if they're going to fit with the direction we're going. And I have no problem removing the date from my motion.
Thank you. Councillor Parslow?
Yeah, I understand our CAO's comments and accept those. And the fact that the current arrangements would prevail. But I'm not sure if I'm comfortable with the current arrangements prevailing. There are a few matters that, in your long list, and I again need advice from staff here, but let me take one example. Couldn't council by resolution identify 3 or 4 things that have happened that we don't like? We don't think it's good. Can I just use one as an example? That the entire frontage is paved. There's no green space. Could we not identify a few things that we want to be incorporated into our expectations in a rather recognizing and not preempting this discussion, but there are a few things that we might find at a future council meeting, maybe 4 or 5 things that we don't want to happen. Just a question.
Jim?
Through your worship, I sort of understand that to be the intent of the motion, is that there would be a process by which issues that are not addressed in this rather narrow matter. The zoning, these are very specific zoning regulations that you are proposing to change. That a broader look would be had, not just by council, but some committee that comprised members of the community as well as council, specifically to identify such issues. That is a different process than what's in front of you now. What's in front of you now is literally no more secondary suites in duplexes, functionally no more suites over about 450 square feet in single-family homes, and the requirement for a designated parking space in those single-family homes that have the smaller secondary suites. That's what's in front of you right now. That's virtually everything canvassed in the motion from Councillor Wilbur is not part of this process.
Thank you.
You'd have to create a new process for it, that's what I'm saying.
Further discussion? Councillor Malkinson?
So I suppose the second part of Councillor Wilbur's motion, the idea of a committee comprised of developers and staff and council, and I'm not sure who else was included in that.
I included the realtors and
realtors.
yeah,
Okay.
builders.
I suppose that would be the main function for us to start this discussion. It would be the basis that we could begin looking at all these matters that Councillor Wilbur's brought up.
Thank you. Councillor Wilbur?
I just have a question to staff. So, should this go forward in the process leading up to the conclusion, can council not send covenants on development permits? So, say somebody comes forward with a development permit, could we not say the driveway is this, the green space going to be this? Could we not put those covenants on those individual development permits until this process is finished?
Through you, your worship, the answer to that is no. You would have to have, as you did the last time, specific direction to staff about the changes you intended to make before the 7-day period and then the withholding period kicks in. Basically, the outcome of the motion would be for another construction year, the existing regulations prevail. That may or may not be of particular interest to council. My understanding is that you arrived where you're at, not looking to alter one construction year, but to alter basically the future look of the community. So if I were you, I wouldn't be too concerned about whether one construction year proceeds under the old rules. If you're making a change going forward, which is what giving third and fourth readings would do, then the change starts now. If you're doing something else in the future, the change starts from whenever you make your decision.
Thank you. Councillor Wilbur?
I just want to, again, you know, like I look at the neighborhood plan for Harvest View and Sunridge, and I just, I mean, it's just a quality development. It's just like those issues have been addressed. We've put that forward, and a lot of work's gone into that with staff. And it's a beautiful plan, and I think it's a bar, and I think we should be a leader in that. And I just think if we're going to make changes to this, then let's get it right the first time, and let's not handpick it all the way down because another issue comes forward. That's my final
Thank you.
piece.
That's all you have to say about that.
Any further comments? So for me, I'm going to speak to the issue. We started this probably last October. It's taken us about 4 months to get here. We started to hear about and see and observe what was going on in our community with respect to development. We're starting to see the development of the community in a way probably that it hasn't experienced in a long time. And so understanding that, we reached out to the community. We reached out, as your motions indicated, to the business community, to the developers, to the investors, to the realtors, and engaged them over the last 2 or 3 months in conversation and discussion, one-on-one. And I credit council for taking the initiative to do that and spent the time to do that. So this wasn't an initiative that council was going out looking for, saying, okay, we're hearing about this and we want to change it. We identified that there was development going on in our community, saying what's happening, what's working, what isn't, what can we do better. We're a policy. We set policy to guide the future of our community, and I think that was a really great step that council took in developing that process. And what we heard almost unanimously from everybody we met with was, you got some issues going on with respect to the development in your community, and we're not developing neighborhoods. We're not developing a community that's family friendly. It's being overwhelmed by the development of density. And the average density for our community in terms of ideally 12 to 14 units per acre, we're almost double that in some respects. And so for me, I'm opposed to it. I think we've engaged the community in the conversation. We spent 4 or 5 months doing that. It's our role to understand and listen, and I feel like we've done that. We've reached out. To me, I'm concerned about the development of our community in terms of what it's looking like today. I want to make sure that we take a proactive, positive view in terms of how we demonstrate that. And I honestly believe and see what's going on in our RS1 neighborhoods and the development of some of these, the duplexes. It's not being driven, in my view, to the betterment of our community, betterment of neighborhoods. It's being about development to meet the needs of potentially what people assume is going to be the future demand in the next 3 to 5 years. So I'm concerned about that. I think we've done that. I think we've reached out. I think we've had the conversation. And so I think we need to make the decision on it. Councillor Schumann.
Yeah, so I get all that, and I was sitting through those meetings and hearing all those same things too. What I look at is, you know, I go for a drive up there and I see a neighborhood where it's just gone all wrong. And then right next door, there's a neighborhood where it's gonna go all right. And it was a neighborhood development plan that laid out the density in a way that, I mean, I love that plan. And I think that we shouldn't just have a knee-jerk reaction to what happened in that other neighborhood. What I think we ought to do, and I think is what Shaylee's after here, is that going forward, we develop our neighborhoods like the one that's going to work for our community, not like the one that isn't working for our community. So whatever it is that we have to do to make that happen in all of the future developments, that's what we have to do. And put a stop to what's already happened in that one neighborhood. And I don't know how it came to be that neighborhood got, I mean, I guess I do know how it came to be, but I want to get to a place where our future neighborhoods look like the one where the density is laid out prior, and it's not just, people aren't just coming in and buying up 2 lots, 3 lots, 6 lots, doing whatever they want, and not, you know, thinking about the form of the neighborhood or the, you know, the parking and the way it looks and the way the density is laid out. So I'm going to vote with Councillor Wilbur on this one.
I wouldn't call it knee-jerk. I think we spent 4 or 5 months on it, and it could have been knee-jerk if we would have just made the decision that we're going to move forward with it. We engaged the community, and so I don't call it knee-jerk. I think we've done a really good job of engaging. So anyway, that's just my kind of 2 cents. Councillor Schumann.
Yeah, I think we need to put more thought into this. When I say knee-jerk, I'm thinking of, oh, we're going to put this new regulation in, or this new, make the amendment to the bylaw, and we're going to solve all the problems. I don't believe that. I don't believe we're going to solve the problems with this amendment. So, you know, we think that it could possibly be solved with this amendment, but I don't believe that it will be. So that's why I'm voting against it.
Going for it.
For it.
Thank
For
you.
it.
Councillor Wilbur, sorry, did you have another question?
Well, I sat in those meetings too. I think I was away for one, but you know, and I appreciated all that input, but because of that input, it made me look at a broader picture and say, wait a minute, there's a bigger issue here, and it's not just secondary suites. And you know, I look at, for example, the Harvest View duplexes. I could see one of my children being able to afford to buy half a duplex, and that suite's going to help them pay their mortgage. My children do not have the money to go buy a $300,000 or $400,000 house, and I'm sure there's many people in the community that would say their children are in the same boat. So I think that there's just a bigger picture here. We have bigger issues, and I really want to get it right the first time. I do not want to push this through and then down the road say, oh crap, we need to look at this. I want to look at it now, and at the end, know we've made the right decision.
Thank you. Councillor Parsley.
Okay, this is, everyone agrees, I think this is a big issue, and certainly some initiatives have been taken under your leadership to deal with some of the matters that came up. Again, I would like advice on this from staff, but I think this is a topic I would like to have all members of council, all elected people, to be comfortable with. I'm wondering if we could defer this decision just for 1 week, just have a special meeting. At the time, we've had time to look at what's written. I haven't seen it in writing, and see if everyone can be comfortable with it. That's really reaching to you, Mayor, and maybe Terry, and and implications. I think this is that possible? Does that generate more issues in itself? That's a question to staff.
Jim?
Through your worship, because you've gone to the extent of advertising specific changes and going to a public hearing, the law says you won't take any further information after the public hearing before you will make a decision on what you had specifically said you were going to do. So I think you run a great risk of attracting litigation if you do what Councillor Parslow was talking about.
I've often attracted litigation.
Well, that's, I'm not saying whether it's good or bad to attract litigation, I'm just saying
He
you
might want
run
to,
that
but-
risk.
Former life.
Councillor Malkinson?
So I'm, again, just sort of considering that the format that's been proposed, will it be, and this is a question, you know, will it be an acceptable format for us to arrive at the outcomes that we've set? I want to set the right direction or the right tone for these conversations right off the bat. Is this sufficient, the action that we've taken, or the action that's proposed?
Through your worship, if the aspiration is that there will be community consensus over something like growth and density, I can't see it happening. Any process you undertake with a committee, similarly to the meetings you held, is with a subset of the population. When you get to your result, it's advertised out for a public hearing. You hear from some people that you didn't hear from before. But there's never going to be a moment in time in this community's history or any community's history where everyone agrees exactly on what ought to happen with growth. I just don't, I would hope that that wasn't anybody's expectation.
Councillor Malkinson?
And were we to go ahead with this motion, would the effect on the construction season be damaging? Do we receive most development permits at you know, in the upcoming weeks? Will we be able to implement this year?
Through your worship, my previous advice to you was I can't see any changes being effective for this construction year. It's the normal way the industry does work is folks pull the bulk of their permits for the construction year at the beginning of the year. They may be building 10 homes, but they're likely to pull 10 permits right around this time, rather than as each is done. So I wouldn't think that you'd be changing any of those regulations through the outcome of this process, because at some point, as I say, you would be likely coming again for changes to either the OCP or the zoning bylaw, again necessitating public hearings and all that.
Yeah.
So I think the old regulations, the current regulations, they're not old yet because you haven't changed them. The current regulations would apply through this construction season.
Thank you.
Well, that's important information for all of us. I think it's, well, one that weighs a question that weighs on my mind right now is whether we agree with the status quo or whether we want to go pursue a route that ensures that we get it right. It's not a I don't enjoy that kind of a conundrum.
It's a great part about democracy.
Isn't it?
Ready for the question?
So we're voting in favor or against
Rescinding.
Shailene?
You're voting to rescind at the moment.
1 and 2. First and second reading.
Yes.
Okay. Ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. So we'll bring that back forward through administration and have some process in terms of how we're going to move it forward for us.
Well, we now have a different direction,
Yeah,
and we'll bring you back something on that. I wondered if you might want to take a 5-minute
5-minute
break, because I
break?
think
Sure.
most of the folks in the gallery have got the decision that they were waiting for.
Report number 14047 from the Director of Infrastructure and Sustainability regarding our OCP amendment. Moved by Councillor Malkinson.
Should I read out the recommendation?
Yes,
here?
please.
That we received this report from our Director of Infrastructure and Sustainable Development regarding the Amendment Bylaw number 4205/2014 and Zoning Amendment Bylaw. Did I say OCP Amendment Bylaw? Anyway, but Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 4206/2014. We received that one as well. And that the OCP Amendment Bylaw number 4205/2014 and Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 4206/2014 redesignating 16 hectares of Northwest 1/4 section, 16 Township 78, Range 15, from agricultural to commercial, and the remainder of the light industrial and zoning the same from A1 to C3, A1 agricultural zone to C3 commercial highway zone, and M2 industrial light zone. Be given first and second readings, and further that staff be directed to publish the required notice for a formal public consultation and hearing after a servicing feasibility study acceptable to the Director of Infrastructure and Sustainable Development has been provided, and after a Section 219 covenant signed by the City of Dawson Creek and the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure is registered on title requiring, prior to subdivision or development, an engineered drainage study, a site development plan, and a traffic impact study that is approved by both the city and the ministry.
Thank you. Seconded, Councillor Schumann. Discussion?
I think I had one with this, Your Worship, if I may. Well, I suppose I'll just go off on a detail on the first bit. This is quite a large rezoning and quite a large amendment to our OCP. In my first question, I suppose, is the original OCP, does the original OCP identify the land that's there as agriculture for a long time to come? Is that the plan in the OCP?
I don't know, do you have any idea the answer to that, John?
No, I can't answer it at this point.
What I can tell you is that the South Peace Comprehensive Development Plan identified this section as being converted from agriculture to the uses that are listed in the rezone. What the OCP says about it, I'm not sure, but obviously the OCP has to be amended or else the report wouldn't ask for that.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. I'm just curious, you know. That was just one thing that came to my mind. Sometimes we hear maybe questions about why we amend our OCP. Anyhow, you'll have to forgive me. I'm not going to waste anybody's time here. I can't find the other questions that I had.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Further questions? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Report number 8.3, report number 14049 from the Director of Infrastructure. Councillor Parslow.
Yeah, I can make this recommendation knowing this property quite well from my previous life. That I'd like to move that report number 14-049 from the Director of Infrastructure and Sustainable Development rezoning amendment 14-04, bylaw number 4207-2014 be received. Further, that zoning amendment 14-04, bylaw number 4207-2014 that proposes to rezone the property located at 12121 8th Street from C5 Commercial Neighborhood Pub Zone to C3 Commercial Highway Zone be given first and second readings, and further that staff be directed to publish the required notice for a formal public hearing.
Thank you. Seconded, Councillor Schumann. Discussion? Councillor Malkinson.
Perhaps Councillor Parslow could define past life.
Past life when I had a lot more freedom and money when I was school superintendent.
Any further questions? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Item 8.4, we have a report from the Director of Infrastructure Sustainable Development in regards to a zoning amendment. Councillor Wilbur.
I will make the motion that report number 14-050 from the Director of Infrastructure and Sustainable Development regarding the zoning amendment 14-05, bylaw number 4208-2014 be received. Further, that zoning amendment bylaw number 4208-2014 rezoning 1100 Alaska Avenue from C3 Commercial Highway Pub Zone to C2 Commercial General Zone be given first and second readings, and further that staff be directed to publish the required notice for a formal public consultation and public hearing.
Thank you. Seconded. Councillor McFadden. Discussion? All those in favor? Sorry.
I had one.
Councillor Malkinson.
Sorry, I thought
Go ahead.
Councillor Wilbur was going for it, but well, I'm not sure if her and I have the same thing in mind. But I was wondering, I suppose, whether any area along that highway is currently designated C2. Like, I'm just wondering what the history is on it.
Through your worship, it would be a spot zone to C2. The more common zoning along both 8th and Alaska is C2.
Okay, it's just a. Okay, I understand. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Wilbur, do you have a question?
Oh, actually, no, I was just gonna comment that it would be nice to see that building filled up, and, you know, if we can accommodate having hairdressing salons and other amenities in there, I think that's great for the community.
You bet.
Thank you. Further questions? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Item 9, Mayor's Business. First one for me, I got contacted probably about a month ago, 3 weeks ago, from the Family Friendly Events Committee. They've organized different events across the community, the Easter egg hunt, the Christmas party, I think they had Halloween. And they're really interested in trying to kick off a family-friendly event in the downtown core, and came and talked to me about it. So we've booked a venue for March 25th, next Tuesday, a week from tomorrow, at Pioneer Village. We've done a little bit of work initially just to try to engage some of the local business community to try to help ensure we got some dough available for them to help fund the event. And it's an organizing committee kickoff meeting next Tuesday night. And so we're really engaging and encouraging anybody in the community that wants to get involved. There's been a lot of interaction, a lot of people talk about it in the community. And so I just think it's an amazing event for our downtown core, just to have a fun afternoon, evening, or day, however and whatever the committee decides to organize it. So I encourage all of council and anybody in the community that's interested to go to this kickoff organizing committee. The budget, we had our budget public consultation meeting on last Wednesday evening at the O'Brien School. It was a good event and good evening in terms of being able to engage the community and the public in the conversation. I was really encouraged by the questions and the interest. Would have obviously that you'd love to have more attendance by the public, but you get people are busy and all of that, and so. But I appreciate the support of Shelley and staff and Julie, everybody who participates in getting that organized for us to be able to put it on. And I thought it was a good evening. I got notified last week that Encana Corporation have started to engage the area in regards to the development that they're going to be looking at for our community and the area. And you always hear about the magnitude of the development that's going on in our community and our area. And so they've reached out and are indicating their proposal plans to situate approximately a 2,000 person camp out on the Mason Road, and they say probably 3 to 5 years worth of need for that facility. And so when you think about, to me, the magnitude of 2,000 people coming into our community and work for work on the major projects that are going to be constructed and built, and my message to them continues is we need you to help build our community by supporting our local businesses. That's how we build our community. And they build their business by attracting people to come to work for them. I've always said a business isn't a piece of paper in somebody's drawer. A community isn't a piece of paper in City Hall. It's about the people that come to work and live in our community. And so to me, that message I continue to reinforce to all of the industry is about support our local businesses. The small business community is what's going to build our community in the long term, and the support we get from these guys. So I just want to raise that for council and for the community, that conversation is now ongoing and moving forward. I was in Calgary. The weeks are starting to flow together a bit. I can't remember if it was last week or the week before. But we were invited to attend a meeting that was organized with all of the senior executives from the 5 or 6 major industry firms in Calgary: Encana, ARC, Progress, Shell, Apache, Murphy. There was another company there, I can't remember their name. LinkedIn were the assistant deputy minister from the Minister of Natural Gas office along with the mayors from Fort Nelson, Fort St. John, and Dawson Creek participating in. And it's a kickoff to a planning function of how we, as the three interested parties in the development of this region and the industry, about how we can ensure that we're proactive and planning for the development of our region, our communities, and the industry, and working together. And because there is so much activity going on, there's so many implications to our region and community, both roads, infrastructure, people, hydro, all of those components. And really, we need to engage all of us in that conversation. And that was the meeting in Calgary was about that, to start that, setting that structure in place for us to begin to plan the vision and exercise of understanding what we need to do in the future. So it was very well attended and really good, strong support. And so the ministers of natural gas, Rich Coleman's assistant deputy minister, has taken it away, and they're going to start putting some preliminary and initial stuff together to data and how we message that stuff, along with the Canadian Association of Petroleum Producers. And we'll start that process of it. We'll probably have another meeting in probably within the next month. And I'll continue to upgrade council and update council and the community on that. I had a great opportunity that Mike Bernier, our MLA, has been working on for us on our reclaim facility, water facility. And it's really about how that water, in terms of it's really out there on its own. There's so few examples of a reclaimed facility in the province in terms of how it's utilized and what it's utilized for. And with some of the changes in the Water Act and things, there was an identification of how and what we could utilize the water for. And as we've looked at in terms of how we're going to try to use the water for watering our plants or dust suppression and things like that. And so Mike's gone to work on it, got the really significant support from Mike on the initiative, and it's just cleaned up some of the identification of that and what we can use it for and where it can be used. So huge kudo to our MLA for taking that on and getting it through Minister of Environment, Mary Polak, and the different areas that were involved in it. So I appreciate his efforts in getting that done for us. Charlie, you had a question?
Well, if I may,
Sure,
wish
absolutely.
to interrupt that last point you're just making. So, does that mean that we now have had some positive enabling feedback as to how we can use the reclaimed water? Or is it in the works, thanks to that work?
Yeah, it's still in the works, but it's also there was a significant component around the industry in terms of how they use the water, and we have never maximized the production or the utilization of that reclaimed water in its history. And you know, you get up to 1,200 or 1,800 cubes a day for a period of a couple of weeks, but the capacity to produce 4,000 cubes of water per day, and Shell's using their component of it, but that's a big opportunity for us in terms of removing the pressure on our potable water from that source and maximizing the utilization of that facility. And so we really needed to have that increased, and that's what's happened as a component of it.
Right, as a
Yeah.
important component. But I just wonder then, any news where we might see, I know there was a bit of a blimp, which I don't want to dwell on in this meeting that happened, nothing to do with the city's fault, but is there some green light coming, do you think, soon around using that water for watering our plants and street cleaning?
Jim?
Through your worship, I honestly can't give you a timeline on that. We're quite concerned because the ministry notified us that they were moving the file to a different place in government, to a different person because of some reorganizations they were doing. So that's never a good thing for speedy response. I think that just may layer several months on the process.
Thank you. One of the last for me is I just titled this kind of the investment update because it's unbelievable to me, and it honestly is amazing. When I was in Calgary, I took the opportunity to meet with Calfrac International because I want to ensure that these companies that situate in our community get the message that we appreciate them being in here. Just the fact that they're here, we shouldn't forget about them. We should continue to reinforce and offer them our support in whatever we can to ensure that we support them in the efforts of hiring local people, supporting our community. And so I wanted to reach out to Calfrac in terms of ensuring that they get that message from us, because it is a huge potential for us in our community and upwards of hiring 300 or 400 people. And so at the same time, I met with the president of CalFrac International, the president of CalFrac, their Canadian division, as well as their director of government relations. And so the fellow from government relations pulled me aside at the end of it and asked me if I'd be willing to sit in, because they're hosting a delegation that's coming into the Peace River District in a few weeks. There's 2 busloads of people going to be flying in here that are from France. They're international delegation coming in to look at our region and our community. And then 2 weeks from now, there's another delegation of Asian investors that are coming into our community, and they asked us through the Ministry of Jobs, Tourism, and Industry if we'd be willing to support and help them in hosting this delegation. And I was in Vancouver last week at an event that I went to because I'd been contacted by a group of investors, separate, that I got to meet over the years when I was working for ICBC, and they're coming up, they're chartering to come in to our community in the coming weeks to meet with us, and they're looking at wanting to get familiar with our community and what we have to offer and why they would look. So it's amazing to me that people hear about this things, but those are absolutely direct contacts that come to our community that are looking to invest in our community and support the development of our region and our community. And I just think it's important that people see that and understand that this isn't just local or provincial interest in the region and the community of Dawson Creek. The development of this Montney gas field that we sit on top of is a world-class gas field. And it has world-class implications to the development and the investment that's coming into our community. And so I just thought it was so cool when you hear that about the interest in the area and the community. And I think it's important that we hear that, we share that, and people understand that, what's coming to our community. So anyway, that was the kind of the 4 or 5 items that I had on my list of information to update council. Now, we had a couple of delegations that were in to council this morning, and I'd like to bring back. The first one was the young gentleman from the ARC, and the I just want to make sure I get their title correctly, was the ARC and Young Life, and they were looking for a potential grant. So I'd like to bring that back forward to council for your thoughts or consideration.
$1,200 grant?
Yes.
2,500.
No. $1,200 is already subsidized to them if they were to rent it at the current rates.
Councillor Parslow.
You asked for thoughts.
Yes.
My dominant thought is that we have a policy, and that anything we do to, if we start ditching the policy any time it makes for a difficult decision, then we shouldn't have the policy. I'm all for the policy that we have.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wilbur?
I think we also have to look at betterment of community, and this is an organization that really takes youth at risk off the streets and gets them into something that's healthy and productive and shows them a better route to take. So I would be in favor of granting them $1,200 for their tournament.
You're making that as a motion?
I'm making that as a motion.
Thank you. Councillor McFadden, seconded. Discussion. Councillor Malkinson.
I know that our grants policy isn't favorable to snap decisions or very receptive to snap decisions, but is there some way that in the future requests of this nature could be considered on the benefit to the community basis? Were we to receive them outside of the normal timeline?
Jim?
Well, through your worship, firstly, I'm not aware of anyone coming in front of you ever asking for grant support who didn't genuinely believe that what they were doing was for the betterment of the community. Your policy says you won't waive fees, and it says there's a grant application process that establishes a set of criteria to look at the request and doesn't in any way talk about whether it's good or worthwhile. We make the assumption it's good or worthwhile and for the betterment of the community. Otherwise, why would the people be asking? Under that process, you've turned down already this year the grant request, very similar waiver of fees at the Ball Diamonds to raise funds for a good and worthwhile process or proposal from the folks with the water park. So if you're going to depart from that now, actually what you're saying is you've decided that the ARC is good and worthwhile, and the water park is not. I mean, really, that's the only way to read it. If you're going to step outside your existing policy, which says all of these good and worthwhile things have to go to a grant process, and if they don't meet your criteria, they're not funded. That's exactly to avoid council being the ones who decide what is good and worthwhile and what is not. Is why you've set up these processes.
Thank you. Councillor Parslow?
Yes, further to that, to my belief is, inherent in what Jim just said is consistency. I do believe that council made a decision to waive this policy because they felt that user groups or people who might apply under the new policy were not aware of it. And we sent out notices to every potential applicant that they would know the new regime. And so it is, that was, I think, consideration of a council maybe a year ago. And so if you're going to do this, you may as well get rid of your policy.
Thank you. Councillor McFadden?
I'll be supporting Councillor Wilbur's. You did make a motion, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
Make the motion. The ARC, I think, stands alone and above a lot, or most other groups in town. And in terms of having to make a decision about who is more worthwhile, that's what we're here for. That's what we get paid for. So I'll be supporting the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Wilbur?
I just wanted to add too that part of the recommendation coming forward with the water park was the amount of money that they had in their account, and so it didn't appear that they actually needed to have that fee waived. They had money, so I just want to put that out there. There's
Thank
a
you.
difference there.
Councillor Malkinson?
Well, this group hasn't provided any, well, we have no assurance that that's the same case for this group of people as well. I certainly understand Councillor Parslow's argument about consistency and staff's advice on that matter as well. But in the response to my question, it was one that the regular process is the grants process. But I am again saying that I don't think that the grants process is very accessible, and certainly it's not accessible annually. It was already mentioned this meeting that they've missed the window for that. Is there some way that we could apply the principles and the analysis that's done with our grants process on a year-round basis, considering the request of a nature that we've gotten here? This is just a general question. I'm not saying that it's indicative of any position that I'm taking on this matter. But
thank you. Councillor Parslow? Oh, sorry, Jim, did you want to respond to that?
Just the reason you set your policy up with an intake deadline is because you wish to evaluate each request against one another. So if you bring them in piecemeal throughout the year, then you're looking at each in isolation of because you still have a finite amount of money. You will always have no shortage. Every council meeting has another good and worthwhile request for you to spend more money, but you set the policy up so that you would judge them all at once rather than individually in isolation. That's just why you have an intake deadline.
Thank you. Councillor Parslow?
Yes, I'm going to ignore Councillor McFadden's comments, but this grant business, I think...
You're not allowed to ignore Councillor McFadden.
No, I
That's one
don't
of the
really,
rules.
but I'm not going to respond to his jibe. The awkward position I found myself in, I bet you, is probably shared by all of us. I have advised people who said, well, I'm thinking of coming to council to apply for a grant. And I've said, no, you can't do that just yet. You need to get ready for, and I've given them the window. And so this just makes us look like a bunch of hillbillies out from the Ozarks, just flopping here and flopping there. It's just...
Be careful, Councillor Parslow, it's St. Patrick's Day.
I know.
I knew you're not wearing a green.
Any further comments or questions?
I have friends from the Ozarks, Councillor Parslow.
Armed friends.
I have armed friends in the Ozarks.
I was willing to call it green.
Are you ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? It's defeated. Our next item that I wanted
We
to bring
can pinch them.
forward was from our friends, Mr. and Mrs. Knoblaw, who had brought forward a presentation asking for council support in their endeavors for the alluvial plains, if I can use that term, and valleys, the alluvial valleys, and so I pose it to council. What's your wish? Councillor Parslow.
Yes, well, first of all, thank you for your work in the regional district and how you've directed them to the agricultural route. And that should bear some fruit, no pun intended.
Or berries.
And berries, okay.
Or carrots.
Well, I guess we all have our passions, right? And, you know, some of us are fairly congruent with our passions, and some of us are quite divergent. I think as it relates to climate change, we have our differences, but we also have a lot of commonality on it. Climate change will give the Peace region an awful lot of new opportunities as it relates to horticulture. A friend of mine who's working in this area has been consulting up here with farmers about new crop opportunities, new ways of treating them, and so on. And so I think this statement from our presenters that stated, I believe that we could have an industry worth 50 to 100 million per year in perpetuity were we to protect and farm our alluvial floodplains wisely with horticulture, would be certainly seconded by this consultant who I know. I think it is true that many writers state that water and food security are the two dominant issues in this whole emerging field of climate change and its impacts. And our presenters are addressing that in a local way. And so I have a great deal of interest in what they're saying. I think in the presentation where our presenters talked about they used the expression, can you as a council endorse in principle? I think we should look at that listing. I see here that this council could, if it so chooses, work with making forward some motions here to UBCM in trying to get some general focus on this issue of food security. Or are we just going to sit on our backsides and partake in the 18-wheel smorgasbord that our friend... Did I get that right? 18-wheel smorgasbord? Yeah. Buffet, that was right. Buffet. So I think, sustainability has been a major focus of City Council in different ways. And I think this food security is something that we should really look at. I mean, I think all of us are amazed what can be grown here. Those of us who do grow food or have berries and fruit trees. And I think the potential is just going to increase. So one thing I would like to see is whether we as a council could work with the college and the school district around having a demonstration orchard of some sort at Northern Lights College for berries and fruits. It's just so people can kids can get some education, people can get some hand-on advice and so on about doing that. I mean, I don't know how we do it, but I think it's something we should give some consideration to. And I think we should also possibly try to look at the recommendation here from our presenters that we try to get all levels of government to protect the river valley alluvial floodplains in the country, because as our current suppliers experience more and more difficulty producing our food, we have the greater potential to produce more with our modifying climate. There's other things listed in their thing, but I think we somehow should have a look at that and see there's some practical ways we can get behind this and implement it, whether it's through UBCM, whether it's working with our other agencies here, so we have something that encourages people and helps people grow more food locally.
Thank you. So, the one thing that I would, as a representative for Peace River Regional District, is it adds to the message for us to add it to the Agricultural Advisory Board committee that is a part of the Peace River Regional District, and certainly if council would be willing to refer and that we are supportive of it and move it through to the Agriculture Advisory Committee, it would add that support to the Peace River Regional District as one more voice in escalating it to the provincial government if they chose to do it, rather than us do it on our own. It just strengthen supporting the regional district, and I use that as one component of it. Councillor Schumann?
So my only question is, I mean, I can look at the list of endorsing principle and say, yeah, I agree with this. The one that I'm concerned about is, like, I'm all for protecting these valleys, but at the same time, are they trying to get out of us a position on the Site C? Does that come into it anywhere? Like, if we say we want to protect these valleys, are we then taking a position that we are opposed to Site C? Because this council has not done that. They have not been in, taken a position on that. So that's my only concern, is that by endorsing the one, is that we would then be coming out as opposed to Site C. That's my only concern about any of it.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it. We'll bring it back. Councillor Malkinson, do you have a question?
I just want to hear what you were.
Well, from my perspective, I think we'll synthesize the material and maybe bring it back. I will, in terms of with some, now that we've got some of the things that we can have for council's consideration and moving it forward. And I'll do that. I'll bring that forward. Thank you. Diary, item number 10.1.
Nothing new on the diary, Your Worship.
Consent calendar. We have a letter from Mayor Corrigan from the City of Burnaby.
Do you want to just move the consent?
Yes, you can.
We just need a motion. Sorry, Brenda?
Just one motion for the.
Yeah.
One motion
consent
for.
calendar.
I'll move that we.
For all items.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Schumann, seconder Malkinson. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Strategic priorities chart. Question and answer.
Nobody signed up, Your Worship.
Committee of the Whole report. So first, 14.1, we have our good friends in attendance from the RCMP representing Staff Sergeant. Good morning.
Good morning.
I see when you said they were representing the Staff Sergeant that Scotty came forward and Mike sat down. So what's that supposed to tell us?
Unfortunately,
I think
I'd
I
be
know.
acting while he's, Staff Sergeant McCollum's away. And I prepared the report for council last week, so I guess you're looking for the report. In keeping with the theme, but not the weather, we're entering into our staffing season, both at the city as well as with the RCMP members, more with the RCMP members. We're at that time of year again. Seems like the staff sergeant's away when we're embroiled in those types of discussions, but we're presently conducting some security clearances, 3 that I know of for casual, clerical, and guard positions within the detachment for municipal employees. Our municipal and complement remains consistent at this time. On the staffing front, again, we're into our transfer cycle. We've managed to cast a line out and net a couple of constables, one of which has 5.5 years service from Nova Scotia. He had sought to come to the drier climate, and Dawson Creek was added to his list via staffing, and he graciously said that he would be coming. He's landed on the ground now, So we're in pretty good shape that way. We do have a new cadet that we've just learned is coming from Regina, which will fill some of our vacancies, with 2 members still left to transfer out of the detachment at this juncture, having escaped our grasps, but they've been here for some 3 to 4 years, so it's not unexpected on our part. Sergeant Mike Richard now has come over with me, and I'll introduce him as your new sergeant. Administration NCO. We didn't have to catch or net him in any way, shape, or form. He was a willing participant in the process, and is going to be my counterpart at the office. And answering directly to the staff sergeant, which isn't here, so we don't have to answer to him. So,
So you guys are basically unsupervised.
Completely and absolutely unsupervised.
Oh no.
We have run amok. We have.
I don't know if I'm in favor of this or not.
Is there a full moon or something?
So, hence leaving a corporal's vacancy at the detachment, which we're presently talking to our staffing and personnel about finding out if we have a lateral interest, or if we'll be putting out that promotionally for members with the senior constable status. Not an urgent need, because we've got more than competent and capable senior constables who wish to remain in the area, are going to be staying on the watches. So we've got candidates there that can assist us with that supervision with little or no difficulties. And of course, Mike's still there, so they've got somebody to go to. We have 6 of our general duty members who are named to Alexis list yet again this year, having taken some total of 122 drivers off the road in our region for alcohol-related offenses, and that would be between January and December of 2013. We've just tallied those numbers and put those names forward. So, in keeping our highways and byways, our roads and streets safe, they've been more than active with respect to that from the general duty side of thing, and that excludes what our local Peace Region traffic services positions help us out with. We did have one fatal accident within the detachment area, but outside the city limits, which involved a head-on collision out on Rollo Road. Unfortunately, we lost a mother, and 4 persons were seriously harmed in that. And there's no good way to put that, but alcohol was not a factor in that, and we've determined that. The investigation's ongoing through our detachment. We did also have a number of fires that were purposely set, which you may or may not have heard about. We had identified a person of interest with respect to those particular fires, and I believe there was a confrontational statements that were made and taken, and oddly enough, those particular occurrences have abated for now. That was by and large in the rural area. So, our general investigation section was very busy. They conducted 6 search warrants on 4 different residences, a business, and 1 vehicle. The search warrants were all targeted the illicit drug trade in Dawson Creek. A significant quantity of heroin, cocaine, and cash were seized as a result of those search warrants, and additionally, 1 stolen handgun was recovered in one of those search warrants. There were 3 arrests made, and the investigation continues into this particular organization, and more charges may be recommended in the forthcoming months as a result of their efforts. Overall, in February, responded to 580 calls for service of all descriptions, and I've provided you with the comparative stats. So we're up from February 2013, which is to be expected considering our region is flourishing with respect to industry, et cetera, and on down the line, and remains stable with its backbone industries that are in the community. That's all I got for you.
Thanks very much.
I am hoping for fishing season.
Me too. Any questions? So I have 2 comments, I guess. One, first we have an announcement that Encana are potentially building a 2,000-person camp on the west edge of town. I know that they have usually strong discipline around structure, around security and things and how they operate that, but I just raise it as a potential that does absolutely drive increased activity and terms of the area and the community. And so I just wanted to raise that as a point of information for you guys more than anything specific. The other thing I'd like to mention is that last week, I think there was the Money Sense article that announced Dawson Creek as number 73 in the Canada as the top 100 communities to live, and number 39 in communities under 100,000 people. And one of the stats that was in that drives all of the data that they use to analyze and drive what makes a great community. And I didn't go into it in a ton of detail, but crime stats in our community were down 10% from the previous year when they measured it. And so I think about that, and Staff Sergeant McDonald had mentioned to me, I can't remember if it was in council or a previous discussion we were having about, in 2013, the city of Dawson Creek did not have a single unsolved major crime in our community. And I think about the quality of life we offer to our community and what are some of those components about that we all look to, and isn't it a healthy, safe community that we want to raise our family in and live in? And so to me, those 2 or 3 factors I think are a huge compliment to the RCMP and the work they do in our community in terms of keeping it safe and being diligent and disciplined about how they deal with the stuff that goes on in our community to help keep it safe. And so I wanted to raise that publicly about what, to me, those 2 things that are so, I think, add to the message about our community, of what a great community it is to live. So I wanted to pass that on to you guys today in terms of that, and hopefully you give it back to the members and say how much we appreciate it.
We certainly will. It's not too often that a police department gets a compliment like that from the mayor and city council. That's thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thanks for coming in.
You're welcome.
And good to have you back in the community. My neighbor.
And congratulations.
Yes.
He never left, only for a little time.
Yeah, no, he left for
Just long enough to make himself promotable.
Here we go. Okay.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I missed him when the class came in. He's usually with that Notre Dame class when they come in.
Report from our fire chief is up next. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. We let the fire chief go away for a few days, so he asked me to present the report.
It's kind of funny how he goes on the committee of the whole day, eh?
Yeah. Standard procedure. I'm starting to get used to it. So in general, our department, along with its regular daily duties, responded to 33 incidents over the month of February. One significant incident I want to bring up is a structure fire that we had just outside the city that we were fortunate that the people managed to escape, but I'd also like to reiterate to the general public they're legally required to have smoke alarms in the place. Any place that's a residence requires a smoke alarm. In this case, the smoke alarm was a little puppy, and the puppy and the family managed to get out with one person with some serious burns. So that's our guys responded, and we were limited, as you were told at last council meeting, due to electrical issues, and the building was pretty well gone when we got there, but quite happy to see that nobody was more seriously injured and nobody was killed. So that was a great one for us. As was mentioned, there was another structure fire outside the city, but within our response areas, suspicious in nature. I haven't had a chance to talk to the RCMP if they've managed to identify who was responsible for that one. Again, our response limited the fire to the back porch of a building that had been abandoned. So other than that, it was a relatively quiet month.
Thanks very much. Councillor McFadden.
Morning, Chief. Did I understand you to say that a residence is required by law to have a smoke alarm in it?
Yes, that's the requirements now.
Even in my place?
Even in your place.
Really?
Yeah, all residences require a smoke alarm, a working smoke alarm. It's up to the building owner to assure that that's taken care of, that's in place.
I'll get on that this afternoon, Chief.
If
You're
you need
nuts.
some help, you can come up and deal with it.
Here's some of this Pinocchio. Any questions or comments?
I'd just like to recommend that Councillor McFadden also get a carbon monoxide alarm. I'd hate anything to happen to you, Terry.
We'll get on that this afternoon.
I'll get on that this afternoon.
Well, thanks very much for coming in this morning. Report 14.3, we have a report from the Director of Corporate Administration. Good morning.
Good morning.
Anything, the kids up to anything these days?
No.
No? Spring break.
Always up to things.
But what are you up to?
Nothing. I'll just report out on, first of all, on the council priorities. With our department, we're involved with the new art center by developing an agreement before it opens. So that's in the works at this time. And the next priority that we're involved with is the sewer trunk line, loan authorization bylaw. So we expect to get ministry approval next week, or sorry, this week. And then we'll do our required advertising, and then we have a 30-day period where we put it out to the electors if they wish to. If they prefer a referendum, then they will provide us with a form that states that. We will have our community newsletter out in the next short while that will use that to inform the community about the council priorities. Plus, we'll use that to inform the community about the details of the loan authorization bylaw, just so they're more aware of the reasons why. The next priority that we're involved with is the economic development strategy, and we do have a tentative date set up for the 24th of June to work with council on that. We do have a new format here. As you see, it's just slightly different than the old committee of the whole format. The first section deals with council's priorities. The next one deals with the department's priorities that are over and above council's priorities. And then we list last year's carry forwards and then this year's. And just updates on each of those. And the next item that I want to mention is in regards to the promotional video. The RFP that we had out, we did make a decision on that one, and it's going to Peace Video Works. So they can begin work on that. And that's about all, unless anybody has any questions about the new, actually, sorry, I should mention the Facebook contest that we had. It did increase the activity on our Facebook site, so that was positive there, as well as provide us with lots of good photos to use for our publications. Any questions?
Thank you, Brenda.
Okay.
Next up, we have the report from our Chief Financial Officer. Good morning.
Good morning, Your Worship.
I'm fine, thanks for asking.
We went through that already an hour ago. Anyway, just a few comments on the format that Brenda talked about with the Committee of the Whole. I think it's really important that we have been working on alignment for many years, and with the new format, I think it moves that forward significantly in that council strategic priorities are the top of what we think about what we do, and then it kind of goes down from there. And it also shows the cross-functional nature of what everybody in the organization does, and just how much as an organization we can accomplish. So I think that's really important. It also looks at how we do things, right? So about 5 years ago, we used to have to redo the numbers on a table. Now we can take a camera shot and put it in the report. So it makes things easier, it makes it faster, it just brings really important information to council a little bit quicker. So long story short, fiscal gap challenge work is kind of on hold until we get through year end and budget. And we have a couple of tables to do with the capital projects that have been identified in council strategic priorities. If anybody has any questions on that, feel free to bring them forward. Sewer trunk line, loan authorization, that's just one of many debt management tasks that we have to accomplish in the year. And before you know it, the Sure Water public consultation is going to come up in May. That's only two months away. In the meantime, for operational strategies for the finance department, we're going to continue work on the capital asset management phase 2 and bring some information forward on capital requirements over 5-10 years. And I think that goes part and part with the fiscal gap information that we're starting to gather too. So they're a little bit integrated in that. Last year, Council had asked us to look at the policy for permissive tax exemptions. And we've done some preliminary gathering research on that. And the bylaw comes forward in October, so that's going to be put on hold, but it'll be definitely brought before you before that time. We're also working on the risk management policy reporting framework so that we can actually update the information to you once a year. Some internal audit work and some looking at user fees again. So lots on the plate, and we just basically, meet through staff meetings and senior staff to bring those together. What was really scary is when the mayor updated us on budget and said the next budget.
Scary?
Yeah, the next budget meeting is 2 weeks away. I couldn't believe that it was that fast already. And we just finished the first consultation. And
Don't we have a March 31st meeting?
well, you said 2 weeks, so I just listened to you. Actually, it's third one is April 14th. So we got about a month.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
All right.
Anyway.
It's just your enthusiasm for all these
Breathe.
budgets.
Yeah, breathe, yeah.
Breathe.
Yeah.
A passion for performance.
Yeah. Anyway, so, and just to further the comments that the mayor made on the public consultation, so we only had 3 people attend, but I think it's really indicative of
13.
how, besides staff and council.
13.
13, yeah. What did I say?
3.
Did I say 3?
Yeah.
I was thinking 13, and that's part of the thing,
Okay, so that's a little scary.
part of the difficulty of
For our
getting
CFO.
what's in here out your mouth sometimes. So
Sorry.
You messed her up with those dates.
forgive me, I have too many numbers in my head. Anyway, I think it's just indicative of how information can get out to the public. So we have website information going out. Council is talking to citizens all the time. We've got the brochure that's going to be sitting on the front counter that can be handed out. And so there's different ways that we can get that information out, whereas, 10 years ago, it was just, you had to come to the consultation to get anything. So I think it's just an evolvement of there's other avenues of getting important information out. So that's pretty much it about budget. We're in the middle of our audit, and that's going well. We had a meeting on Friday and working through some changes there. And then just a whole lot of other information on day-to-day stuff, getting things done, so, and the quarterly financial reporting. So, and then finally, news and notes, just a little bit about, some fun things that we do. We do have staff meetings every month, and we really try hard. Janet does a great job on it. Keeping humor in the workplace and providing important information in different ways. We used to have manuals and stuff. Now we're doing YouTube blogs and videos on safety training, and it makes it a little bit more fun and engaged. So that's pretty much it for us.
People shouldn't be having fun at work. Like,
You gotta have fun, yet it takes a lot of hours in the day, so.
Charlie, you had a question?
No,
It's not fun when you change
Councillor
the dates.
Schumann sorted out the various
Okay.
figures that were floating between you and our CFO.
Thank you. Director of Infrastructure and Sustainable Development. Thank you, Shelley.
Thanks, Shelley.
You're welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning. How's
Hey.
everybody this morning?
Wonderful.
Confused.
Well, in Kevin's
Confused.
absence, I'll try and do my best to work through this new format. New business licenses issued for the month of February. We had 13, valued approximately $1,300, and 3 of them were oil field related.
1,300?
total. Building permits, we had 4 permits in February that totaled a value of $400,000, which equated to a permit value of $3,300 approximately. To date in 2014, we have a total value of building permits worth $4,433,000. So that is the building and development side. And now I'm going to go through the new strategic priorities. Council's priority number 3 was the sewer trunk main. It is out to tender. It closes April 2nd. It sounds like we've had lots of interest to date, according to the contractor, or who the consultant who put it out. So that's good. Council priority number 4 is the Sure Water campaign. And as Shelley mentioned, we're scheduled for public consultation in May. Staff's currently working with Jan Enns. Our operational strategies, the Loran Reservoir is on the list. As you know, we're currently out, or we just closed the Loran booster. We're currently out for the Loran Pipeworks tender, which will close in a couple of days. And as far as the actual reservoir itself goes, it's almost complete. We have a little bit of landscaping left to do when it dries up, and we need to test the 1-million-gallon tank for leaks. The water treatment plant also mentioned as an operational priority for us. We have brought in a consultant. We've started to do an assessment on our SCADA system. This is a continuation of what we went through prior to Christmas in regards to having a couple of computer issues out there. So we will do an overall assessment of the entire system, and we'll be replacing CPUs as well as switches. It'll also give us an entire overview of capital upgrades moving forward in regards to that SCADA system. And I guess probably one of the hot topics right now on the operational side would be potholes. Just want to ensure everybody that we will have the link put on our website to report potholes. The Public Works Department does its best to fill all reported potholes within a 24-hour period. The Municipal Insurance Association says we should do our best to fill them within a 48-hour period, so we'd like to think that we do better than that. For the most part, when they're reported, they are filled within a few hours of being reported. As well, as you can see, we are into steaming season. We will probably restain the same drains and culverts numerous times between now and when we actually get warm enough temperatures to keep them open. Crews are working long hours trying to deal with that at this point. Same thing, if the public has any issues with culverts or drains, they can report them to the Public Works Department, and we will be there as soon as possible. One thing I wanted to bring up, and it kind of extends on what the mayor was saying in regards to working with the Ministry of Environment in regards to our reclaim plant. We've had direction from the ministry that we will have the ability to be hauling our reclaimed water across the border, which is good news. So we do have the ability to basically haul at this point up to our entire, whatever we can produce at the reclaim plant across the border if required. So that was a good news story. On top of that, our reclaimed water plant has now currently become LEED certified. And this will go up at the reclaim plant as well as the water plant, and can also be found in our offices. Any questions?
Charlie?
Yes, a very knowledgeable person asked me a question about coach houses.
Okay.
And so, are these the first coach houses that we have got in our community, or what?
No.
Are they regular? How many do we have?
I can find out how many we
Okay.
currently have. They have been, people have been doing coach houses now for approximately 2 years.
Okay.
Councillor McFadden?
Well, it was pretty much the same question, but I hadn't noticed building a permit for a coach house for a while, so I thought maybe this was something that was fairly new.
They are fairly minimal. There is a few around, but this is in regards to the neighborhood that you guys just talked about, and this is part and parcel of their plan.
That's the response to the possibility that we may be having a look at secondary suites. Am I saying that legally, Jim? Is that okay to say that?
Actually, no, I don't think those two are related. You hadn't indicated any intention to do away with the coach house part of the Harvest View neighborhood plan. These were, they're developing there because that's where they brought their services next.
Oh, I see. Yeah. No, I thought, I hadn't recalled seeing any permits, applications for coach houses, and I thought it might have been the developer's response to the possibility that we might be having a look at in-law suites or whatever.
Councillor Schumann?
I have a question about the coach houses. So the coach houses are built sort of at the back of the property, accessed by the lane.
Correct.
So what's their address? If we don't have named laneways or
Right.
back alleys, what would their address be?
Their address is usually subsequent to the house address. As it works with suites, it's A or B. I can double check for you to see if that's how it works on the coach house as well, or if it goes up by a numeral of 2 possibly as well.
Keeping in mind, of course, that there's no delivery to the house anymore. So
Yeah.
it's going to be a box with a
That's
number
right.
on it, and it's going to say, you know, something 17th B.
So, yeah, I get that. But what about if 911 was called
You
or?
go to the main house address.
Any further questions?
Well,
Jim?
I should mention on potholes. So potholes are very frustrating for all of us. In this freeze-thaw time, so started a couple weeks ago and it doesn't look like it's ending, looking at the flurries out there. If we patch pothole of any significant size, and it freezes overnight, it's gonna pop the patch. And the first vehicle over, it's gonna remove it. And so we don't have the manpower to go back to complaints that we have already actioned. We need you to complain again. Yes, it may look to you like we're doing nothing about that pothole, but that may be because the same pothole has to be patched 5 or 6 or 8 days in a row. But we need you to call in or you know, access the website. Let us know that the patch has popped up.
Good point. Thank you. Councillor Wilbur?
Just actually just regarding the carriage houses. So if 911 was called and they go to the main house, then how does that affect the designated parking stalls at the back with regards to snow removal and that kind of stuff for those laneways?
Snow removal, once again, is something that has been visited in the overall view of the new neighborhood. And there is specific lanes that the city will be responsible for clearing. There's also specific lanes that the actual developer will be responsible for clearing.
Okay.
Anything further? Thanks, Sean.
You're welcome.
Sean?
Councillor Parzo, sorry.
Before something has arisen in this presentation that I just want to flag, if I may, I want to talk about something in camera because it's to do with land sales, land acquisition.
Okay.
If you could just make a note of that.
Tourism. No. Who?
Duncan.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I don't want. Director of Community Services.
I was gonna say you
It
missed
was
the
like
chance to run,
anxious
Duncan.
anticipation. looking
Something
forward
somebody
to
hasn't
tourism.
told me yet?
Should have been out that door.
You haven't been told?
Is Barry safe in Sochi still?
I haven't heard from him. I think Jim maybe has
We
heard
haven't
from him.
heard
I
from
haven't.
Barry.
He's actually, that's a good question because he flew through Moscow this morning, their morning, so quite a while ago now. And whether or not those flights are still moving seamlessly or not, who knows?
Yeah.
So from the new Director of Community Services.
So lots of
Welcome.
good information in the cow. Lots of good information in the cow. I'm going to stray from the cow a little bit. And the first item I was going to address actually was something that came up this morning with Earth Hour, and it was around non-essential lights. So I thought I'd throw a comment on there for Councillor Parzo and Councillor Schumann. So we say we're going to leave, or we're going to shut off all non-essential lights. In our facilities, we have floodlights, for instance, on the art gallery that shine up on the sign outside. We'll call those non-essential, and we'll be shutting those lights off, whereas on a normal evening we would leave those on. There's also some parking lot lights. There's also some exterior lights. When we say we're going to shut off all non-essential, we're saying we're pretty much going to leave the only lights on that are required for security purposes in the building, so you can have a view of the entrance and the exits and things like that. Just to clear that up. But yes, We do endeavor to shut off all non-essential lights every night, just to square that away.
Well, that's reassuring.
Yes, yes.
We
and-
appreciate it.
Yeah, and as we move through, computer upgrades and technologies in buildings, such as Calvin Crook Center, you can control the lighting with a DVC system. So it's programmable to shut down those lights. It can sense occupancy. You can sense the light levels coming in from the window and adjust accordingly. There's all kinds of neat stuff that we're looking at moving forward. So get that one out of the way.
Well, just a question of
Sure.
You know, I'm sure this has happened more to people of the fairer sex. You know, but can you adjust those things? The washroom lights. You know, you go into the washrooms and you maybe sit on a toilet and suddenly the lights are out.
You can adjust the time. Yes.
How do you adjust that if you're sitting on the toilet?
They're programmable for a time
I said,
period.
how do you do it if you're sitting on the toilet?
Yeah, we
You
actually
don't
had that
sit in the dark.
we had this in a shop. We
No.
had this occur in a shop, not a washroom, but we had an individual who was underneath of a grater.
Yes.
And the lights went out on him.
Yeah.
So we've come across that, and we try to adjust accordingly in our buildings to make sure that doesn't happen.
Or the issue could be that the fair don't sit as long as other people in the
Yeah,
stall.
'cause I was going to say, well, how does this apply to us?
Can we take a break here, Your Worship? It's time for a break.
We're gonna be on here.
Anyway, on to our strategic priorities. So 2013 strategic priorities, we had three main priorities and some bullets. Union negotiations completed, Crescent View Park. Phase 1 was completed, that's then moved, now carried forward into 2014. Cemetery expansion also completed, carried over into 2014. Hockey Canada event, that big bid package is in, also carried over into 2014. And then the tree removal policy. Looking at our 2014s, we have the Calvin Crook Center for the Arts complete and open the new Arts Center. That is our #1 priority to get completed. And I provide regular updates on that. The IIHF U18 hockey tournament, there will be follow-up from the bid. The bid package has been submitted, and we will be following up. Phase 2 cemetery expansion, there's money in the budget to look at a cemetery design and excavate the existing road infrastructure that's there that'll need to go. However, last year we got our application into the ministry, and that is proceeding accordingly. Crescent View Park, now we're looking at completing some base work also in the 2014 budget, so that would include some trees, some shrubbery, some pathways. Not completely to the extent of the public consultation responses we've got, but getting that base work done. We have ice usage under our next bullet. So that is in our Memorial and Kin Arena to review the user group and facility ice usage. There have been some requests brought forward about the event center and 3 ice surfaces. So before we can look at that, we need to go back and look at our current facilities and see where we're at. And then lastly, the customer service review at the Kembork Aquatic Center, and that is reviewing some of our customer service practices, looking at opportunities to increase facility usage, and we're going through some strategic planning in that facility as well. A couple other items that I wanted to address, some bigger items. Unfortunately, I have to report that our energy manager is leaving us. So he's going to be leaving us at the end of April. Hydro are keen to keep the position at the city and keep that funding through the city, but Matt is heading to the Lower Mainland, which is going to provide some challenges on the capital end, because he had a number of projects that he was working on, so that's going to be a challenge. And then lastly, just around the grandstands, a bit of an update on the grandstand. So it was found that there was lead paint in a small portion of the grandstand. We completed leachate testing, which is pretty much determining whether that lead can leach into the soil, and it determines where it needs to be disposed of. The leachate levels are low and it can be disposed of locally, so that does decrease the cost a little bit, but there still needs to be removed using appropriate hazmat procedures. So they're going to have to go in there and bag it and mask up and do all of that when they remove the lead portions of that wood.
Didn't we have thousands of people sitting on that stand last summer?
Lead is not an issue until you start grinding it and
okay,
creating a
okay.
fine powder and breathing it in.
Yep.
So if you were busy chewing on that grandstand, perhaps
Maybe I-
you would
Yeah.
suffer some adverse
You get into
effects.
1970s and earlier buildings, you're finding a lot of lead in the paint, the art gallery, the museum.
yeah.
I mean, that paint is there, but it's considered encapsulated until it's disturbed, right? There's also a lot of asbestos, you know, the sand that's inside the block.
Yeah.
It's all hazardous materials, but it's encapsulated.
Councillor Wilbur, you had a question?
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, how is there any effect to our timelines of completion of those grandstands because of the lead paint?
I was gonna actually go on. So I'm meeting with the engineer this afternoon and Heggie Construction and the Exhibition Association. The engineer has actually come up with he would like to modify the plans a little bit. He's found what he believes to be a more economically feasible solution, and also it's going to help with the timelines quicker. Instead of using the large glulam beams for the seating, the base of the seating, he's looking at a corrugated metal that would be lighter. It would be a quicker turnaround to get that product on site. And overall, it looks good, but I'd like to meet with the engineer and meet with Exhibition Association, make sure it's gonna to meet their needs. But at this time, everything is still on schedule. We wouldn't look at this corrugated metal if it wouldn't be on schedule. So
Thank you.
yeah. So we would like to get this locked down, figure out the design, make sure everybody's on board, and then Haggie will have to come back again with a bit of a price change with the removal of the hazardous materials. But I believe this corrugated metal will also decrease the price we received from them earlier. So I'm not sure where that'll come out, but it should be close.
Thanks, Duncan.
Yeah.
Any questions? Sorry, Councillor Parslow?
Yes, it's to you, actually, related to this report, related to the under-18 hockey tournament. I understand that officials were coming to view our facilities and shortly. Is there anything that council can do to show their support to these people?
So I know
that we are unanimously behind this project.
Sure. I know I talked to Barry just before he left, and he was working with Hockey Canada on the date, and I haven't heard exactly when that is. So I still haven't had a confirmed time frame. And so I just want to, before I do that, then we'll circulate it to you, everybody, and make sure that.
I just think,
we're
anything we can do to
yeah.
impress, if there's anything we can do, or if we're in the way, then we must stay out of the way.
To that point, I did, when I was in Calgary, I delivered 3 packages to the 3 companies I met, and all of them were all over supporting it, right? So I passed that information on to Barry and Ryan and folks that are dealing with it. So we'll update council as soon as we hear that confirmation of the visit date by Hockey Canada for our bid. Thank you, Duncan. And now we have tourism. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Thank you. So I can actually confirm it's March 25th because our name's on the bid package, so we're privy to the
okay.
information. We just don't know timelines yet about when they're flying in. It's a one-day visit, but we will be sending out a schedule of events for council and mayor when you're needed.
Okay.
Okay. So thanks for having us. Perfect timing. We're getting ready to end our fiscal year, March 31st, because we're on a different calendar than city. So wrapping up a lot of projects, which is great, and then starting new ones, of course. So I changed the format of the report a bit, just so that it's bullet point, maybe a bit easier to read, easier to glance at. So I'm just going to start with Visitor Center and Tourism Dawson Creek. I sort of outlined an operations plan. As we all know, we continually talk about our 4 priorities are increase visitations to our businesses and our community, increase overnight stays to increase that economic impact, and then of course the last 2, continue to provide superior customer service. This year we're going to be doing that by increasing the length of hours of the visitor center during the summer months. So we're going to be open until 6:30 instead of 5:30. So we're hoping to gain increased visitation, because we all know with increased daylight in the summer that people do travel longer. And of course that links to number 2. Hopefully if we're open longer, we talk to them and they get to stay. So we're hoping it's a chicken and an egg. And then number 4, once again, we are going to be hiring 5 summer staff, but we do apply for Canada Summer Jobs funding just to offset that cost for us, because it is big. So retail. Last year I came to you talking about a big priority was to ensure that our revenue was up in our retail side. For the past couple of years, we haven't met those targets, and I'm glad to report that we're almost there. So with my increased sales training with staff and Joyce, we've increased retail sales by 15%, which brings us to about 85,000. So it's a great impact on our budget to have programming for the visitor center, you know, postage, sending out our visitor guides for our inquiries and all that kind of stuff. So we're really proud. And then, of course, I will be doing the training again this summer with our new staff, but I'm also developing the program to be a product for Tourism Dawson Creek, to go out in our northern region and train maybe chambers of commerce, you know, smaller business units, but we're still looking at that right now. World Host. So it is a Destination BC product, and we are the official training organization, and Joyce is our trainer. And this is a really great opportunity, seeing as the World Host is being pulled in with Canada Winter Games. And so Canada Winter Games is saying that games are for the North, and they're using World Host to train the North. So we're all ready to welcome all these visitors and use it as a tool. Joyce has been shortlisted to be the Northeast trainer, which we're really excited about, so that's going to put us on a higher level. But we've also been really lucky. We've been able to hold 3 workshops in the last 2 months alone, located in Dawson Creek, and then we also have 2 coming up in Tumberl Ridge. So we're really happy to use World Host as a tool to connect with our neighbors, train the region, and then rely on Tourism Dawson Creek as well. The Community Magazine and Visitor Guide, it's printing as we speak, so we should have it by the Kiwanis Trade Show, which is always our goal. We've increased our image bank this summer, so those beautiful new photos are going to be in the Community Magazine and the Visitor Guide to showcase our community better. Looking forward, last week I just welcomed Destination BC to do brand new photos of our Memorial Arena, Kin Arena, and Crew. We have photos from about 15 years ago, and all the mothers are very mad when we use the photos. They go, my child's not a child anymore, he's an adult. So we're really happy to get, you know, new photos, and then of course we can use those in our bid packages, you know, our websites, our guides, both of those. So it's really great. Work for the coming year, historic walking tour, we're doing some more updates. Last year we did QR tags. They almost look like an alien concept when they're printed. They almost look like a, you know, a scanning code for retail. But what it is, you scan it with your cell phone, and it either plays audio, video, brings you to another website. So ours are actually video and audio from Simon Sees, who is a provincial sort of tourism guy, and he leads you around the province. And so we're updating the brochure to better reflect the stories and the pictures and historical concepts of Dawson Creek through the years. This winter we also brought back the Snow Share Weekly Report. Bell Media actually contacted us to bring that back, which was really great. So it's coming from our stakeholder base. And it was, our goal was to inform residents and visitors about winter activities. So we focused it on skiing, snowshoeing, and snowmobiling. The funding for the Northeast Avalanche Center was actually cut. So this came from our stakeholders stating they wanted to know how the conditions were, how to stay safe, and, you know, what are the regulations with using a snowmobile in the outback, as they say. We also had a really great workshop for online reputation management through Destination BC. We had about 13 stakeholders attend, and it was all about tuning into platforms where our visitors and our customers talk about us online, where we may not be tuned into those platforms. So it was really great. We had a facilitator from Vancouver come up, and we're planning on holding the advanced workshop in the fall because it's a 2-piecer. So there was lots of demand for it to come back. And then I'm also going to be working with Judy Kacharik to see if we can pull in a local aspect as well. So we'll see how that goes. I was just in Vancouver last week for, as Tourism Dawson Creek, we're a DMO. So the province has an association for all the DMOs. And we meet once a year, obviously for AGM, and then also talking about issues. While we were there, it's really interesting to hear what other DMOs in bigger centers are worrying about, and it's great to hear that we're along those same lines. You know, visitation's a big one, the role of the visitor center in our communities, how we can be a part of the digital age instead of being bricks and mortar. So there's a great conversation about, you know, being at a satellite visitor center. So attending the fall fair with, you know, a booth or just our cell phones and walking around and welcoming the visitor, and it was a really great conversation. The big thing too moving forward is funding for the province. As we know, it went back to a Crown Corp, and their funding was cut a bit, so there are challenges for the province. Luckily it doesn't affect us directly, but we want to make sure that we're pushing for our region to be always present and always have programming and funding for our DMOs of the North. Mile Zero coupon book, we're working on that. As I said, the IIHF site visit's the 25th. We're really excited to work within Canada and the city to make sure that those officials are welcomed and really shown the venue as well. And we're really excited. Today, April and I are flying out at 3 to go to Prince George. Destination BC is holding branding workshops all throughout the province. There's about 6 workshops. The one for the north is in Prince George. And pretty much Destination BC is working at rebranding the province and working more directly with the CTC and branding Canada, and then your next destination's BC. So we're really excited to be a part of those workshops and have our voice heard for the north. 2 more things. At our last Economic Development Task Force, I alluded to the mayor that Tourism Dawson Creek is the official receiver of inquiries about events, conferences, and conventions, information, bookings, hotels, catering. And so I found a document from 2011 that wasn't really distributed. It sort of got developed and then was handed off to the city and administration. But we're going to be updating that and bringing it back as a tool for when these people contact us, that it's an official document from our community, what's available, who to contact, a really effective planning tool, and also hopefully directly to purchase in the sense that they do book their convention or conference here. And lastly, we're still working on our development initiative, using some of those revenues that we have from the magazine to put it back into our community to foster tourism production and experience development. I was a bit worried about legalese and the money and all that kind of stuff, so I'm working with Tourism Nanaimo, who has a developed strategy. They have 5 years of experience rolling out the program, so I'm working with them to make sure the program's as efficient as possible. So that's all I have. Any questions for me? And then April has a couple things as well.
Councillor Parslow.
Yeah, if you refer to page 4 of your report.
Okay.
I'm just scrolling down, just bear with me. Maybe better if I did my finger. And this is to do with workshops.
Okay.
The very last bullet, regional workshops and partnerships, partnered with Community Futures and Dawson Creek Literacy Society. Held 2 successful workshops for 25 participants. So what's the linkage between tourism and literacy?
Sure. So the Literacy Society actually reached out to us because we are the official World Host trainers, and they asked us to make a program to train their society members who are English as a second language. And World Host is mainly mandated to do customer service. So you're that first person on the front line. And so the Literacy Society wanted us to train their members to answer the phone effectively, listening skills for keywords, open-ended questions, how to serve a customer better. They had very little funding, and so any other training program was out of their budget, and so we tailored it to be effective for them.
So by members you mean clients?
Clients, sorry, I
okay,
wasn't sure
that's
what
fine.
word to use.
One other question, if I may. This destination, this thing you and April are going to in Prince George, I think it is. Branding. Yeah, the Destination British Columbia Branding Workshop. Is it I'm intimately aware of the Brand the Peace efforts. So is this a branding the total of British Columbia, or is it going to be regional branding?
It's for the total of the province. So currently the branding is Supernatural BC, and so they're looking at what is a better, so maybe April, if you have any more information.
Well, basically they're revisiting, reviewing Supernatural brand, and seeking, and because Destination BC is now essentially a new corporation, we have a new CEO. There is a revisit of many of the different programs, and the branding of British Columbia is one. That's not to say that after this session that Supernatural British Columbia will be no more. It'll help
just
refine
been revisited,
that.
Yeah,
Revisit it, and also the important aspect too is to ensure that there is a regional and a northern perspective on what Supernatural British Columbia is all about.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
And just on that note, I would just, I'm always very proud of all the work that Samantha and her team are accomplishing, but I think it's also really important to, in my role with Northern BC Tourism, we work with all the communities to encourage them to access the Destination BC programs and the resources that are there for their communities. And because we have Tourism Dawson Creek going forth and multiplying and working with stakeholders, we have accessed the online reputation management, the upgrading of the images for your sports venues, really stimulating the World Host program. Plus, Samantha's attended the DMO meeting and now attending the Destination BC brand revisit. There was also an Alaska Highway Corridor planning session the end of February that was funded through Destination BC, and it modeled after the Community Tourism Foundation's program, and so Samantha and her team attended that session as well. So we're really ensuring that Tourism Dawson Creek is engaged in all of those programs and your stakeholders are benefiting. So
Thanks very much. Thanks for coming today. It's good to see you.
Thank you.
Councillor Malkinson, sorry.
I'm not certain, but it's a question for the tourism group, or our tourism representatives specifically. But I remember us resolving months ago to fill a position, either a provincial position or some position that Bud Powell was stepping down from. Was there? I don't remember the resolution to that. Occasion.
No, I think you're misinformed.
Am
I think there was some misinformation about Bud's intentions.
I? Oh, he was still going to be on that.
Am I
Okay.
correct?
Yep. So Bud's board position with Northern BC Tourism, his term was up.
Mhm.
He was asked, sort of promoted to go over to the channel board, which is the for-profit piece of Northern BC Tourism, because he's so well rounded with the Northern BC Tourism product and what's needed for for-profits. Darcy Dober was then elected to the Northern BC Tourism Board, which we're very proud to have 2 representatives from Dawson Creek, Little and Northeast on both boards. So it was just his term was up. He still wanted to be a part of it, but he had to shift roles. And then Darcy is now a board member. The other thing you might be alluding to was the city always has an attendee at the AGM.
Yeah. No. That's not what I'm thinking
Okay.
of. Bud Powell was our city appointed rep on the Northern BC Tourism Board, right?
No, the Tourism BC, the names are put forward, and so there's a request for names for suitable candidates, and of course if there's more, and Bud in the past, Bud's name was put forward and he was representing the city.
Awesome.
Bud is the city appointee for the Alaska Highway Community Society.
Yes. Yeah. That's right.
It's all very confusing.
And he's involved in a lot.
But it's nice to know you're there.
Thank you.
That's right. Thank you so much.
And you can pinch Sam because she's not wearing green, and you are.
She'll do it on the
I was
flight.
pinched.
Next item, number 15, we have a media question period. Good morning.
I have a question.
Media, yes, go ahead.
I was just curious of what the total cost of hosting an energy conference is usually. I heard a whisper of 25,000, but I wasn't sure if that was right.
Yeah, through your worship, that 25,000 is the contribution from council to that. The majority of the income comes from sponsorships, and previous, I can't off the top of my head, I don't know the total budget, but the last conference, I believe we had a profit of about $6,000, and that was in 2011. And this last conference, we lost about 4,000.
Okay, and I know,
I can get you those numbers after.
okay, it's not a problem, but I know that council usually sponsors, is a sponsor when other communities host it, and I just wondered if there was a set amount that council usually does that for.
Yeah, through your worship, that's $5,000 that we provide to other communities, and it's done from other communities to ours as well.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Yeah, actually, I guess I just had one question. It's related to report number 14-047. I'm not sure if this is maybe made clear in the report and I missed it, but I'd be curious to know if the developer of that, or the person who wants to develop that particular property, if he's made any indication to council or to city staff as to what he would like to maybe do with that property eventually.
It's the
Okay, through your worship, one of the requirements the council laid out was a covenant requiring a development plan. We don't have a development plan, so we can't actually answer that question. We know what generally permitted uses the applicant's looking for, but what he intends, or whether he has buyers who intend to do specific things there, we don't know that yet because we don't have a development plan.
Okay, so you, and I guess, and sorry, just so I'm clear, is the generally permitted uses, I mean, is that sort of within the report itself, or what would kind of be some of the generally permitted uses for that type of area, I guess?
It wasn't included in the report, your worship, but we can get a list for Will of the permitted uses in commercial and light industrial.
Okay. The other question I had, and sorry, this might have been in Shaylee's motion, but I missed it here. But for the secondary suite discussion, I know that in some of the letters that were available in the public hearing section of it, there was talk about the idea of vertical fourplexes, and I just wanted to know if maybe that's something that would be sort of included in that discussion with the committee as proposed, or if that's something that's not going to be discussed, or what the status of that particular idea is at this point.
So I would answer that on the basis that I think we're back into our previous zoning bylaw, and so we're moving forward with to have an engaging, all-encompassing interaction with the community and business community and developers to understand what are some of the parameters around what we feel and should be including in it in the future. So that would be a topic of conversation, I'm assuming, as would everything.
Okay. And the other question, and this is directed to Dale, is that I guess you talked about the idea of discussing with the BC Lotteries Commission about the process for turning a gaming center into a casino as a sort of a worthwhile topic. And I just wonder if maybe you could sort of elaborate on that a bit as to why you sort of, why it was sort of a worthwhile topic in your opinion, or?
Well, only that my understanding is when the gaming Chances Casino was first opened or anticipated, that was one of the conversations and the anticipated discussions that council would consider in the future would be the card tables and things like that. So I think it's a good thing we bring them back in and have that conversation with them and say, what are the impacts to us? What are the implications of providing that through the venue, and is it something the council and the community think would be worthwhile to consider? So,
all right, cool, thanks.
Thank you. Nothing from Andrea Dion?
No.
Nice to see you today. Welcome. So that is the end of our agenda for media question period. We now are going to, sorry.
Just
Brenda?
need to add to the resolution to go into closed. We need to add item regarding agenda item 10.1 as per section 91E.
Is that Councillor Parslow's mention?
No.
Okay.
Sorry?
Just a reason to go into closed as.
Oh, okay.
Needs to be added.
Thank you. Councillor Malkinson?
I move we recess to the closed
Thank you.
portion of the meeting.
I'll
Seconded,
second that.
Councillor Wilbur. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.